Well, hello, and welcome to my very first show on Sirius Rising with Toxic Reality Radio. And I am your host tonight, Dee Smith. And tonight I have a very exciting and information-packed show with two of my very favourite researchers, Danny Wilten and fellow Aussie and Illuminati ass kicker, Santos Bonacci, are joining me. So guys, how are you? I am very honoured to have you both here on my first show.
Hey, Dee,
great, thank you.
Great to be here.
Great. So tonight we're going to talk about a variety of subjects, but just before we get going, I suppose there probably are a few listeners here that aren't familiar with your work and research. So if you could maybe give them a bit of an overview of what you guys are looking at and researching and the knowledge that you are bringing to the light, that would be great. So, Santos, did you just want to perhaps give a quick overview of some of the information that you are bringing out to everybody?
Yeah, well, I'm endeavouring to be as comprehensive as possible with my information, but what I think is important about what I'm doing is that it's syncretic. Syncretism was something that the Hellenistic period was all about. The Greeks down in Egypt, the Ptolemies, they tried to syncretize all of the schools and faiths and religions and philosophies. Not that they tried, they did.
Yeah.
Plato and all of that mob, they proved that all is one and all is syncretic. And then, of course, the Renaissance came 500 years ago with people like Marsilio Ficino, Pico, his nickname, Giordano Bruno. These are people that I've researched extensively, and they were syncretic.
Yeah.
They showed. In fact, Pico went down to the Vatican in the late 1400s with 900 theses. 900. 30 years before Martin Luther King. And he went down there and he posted up all these, he put posters up all over Rome saying, I will challenge the Apostolic Senate of Rome to a debate to prove that all is one.
Yeah.
And everything is interconnected and interrelated. You know, they kicked him out of Rome. He had to go back to Florence and flee for his life. But if there's one word that describes what I'm doing, it's syncretism. Yes, I do astrology. Yes, I do astrotheology. I do sacred geometry. I do law and language. I do sovereignty. I do all of these subjects, Neoplatonism, Hermeticism, etc. But if there's one word that defines what I'm doing, it's syncretism.
Yeah, you marry them all together. And I must say that things didn't end well for Bruno either. So I think that we've experienced the negative polarity of the agenda that is seeking to basically keep men unconscious. And I find it really interesting that this knowledge seems to now be finding the light again. So I think we live in very interesting times, and thankfully there are people like you, Santos, and Danny that are bringing this information to others in a way that they can actually understand and, you know, realize that we really are powerful, divine beings, not the disgusting worms that the Vatican and Paralelite try and make us, feel. So, yeah, and Danny, anything that you would like to bring to the listeners to give them a bit of an idea of the research and what you're looking at and bringing to the light?
Sure. So my research revolves around, I take a look at theosophy. I take a look at a lot of art that you find around cathedrals. I've actually made a lot of interesting discoveries there. I take a look at symbolism. One of the things that I've been trying to do in a lot of my research is to find the connections between religions across cultures. You have to do that in order to find the truth. You have to be able to compare and look for the confirmations versus the contradictions. And so I look for that, and I find that in symbolism. I look across cultures such as the Mayans. I look at the Vatican. I look at Eastern cultures. And the common theme that I'm finding is that they're teaching enlightenment. And so when people take a look at the Bible, for example, the people that take it literally are missing the point. And so what I try to do is to connect the dots as well as show people that, for example, there are things that you cannot explain. There's ways that the universe communicates with people that does not necessarily meet with the left brain people. And so what I'm trying to do is to get the left brain folks to understand that things are that way so they can connect to their right brain easier and start using that, those abilities that we all have that we've been told that we don't have. And I've made interesting discoveries about the Orion Nebula that's been in these churches, and I've proven that. And so we're trying to put all the pieces together and find out what all this means.
And your work and Santos' work can be found at the School of Holy Science.com. So I'll make sure that I link that and people can find all of your research. And plus you both have YouTube channels. Santos, yours is Mr. Astrotheology. And Danny, yours is Starscream, and that's 5T4ASCREAM 233. So I'll link all of those, and people can look at that.
Right. 5T4R Scream.
5T4R, yes, Scream 233. Right. Sorry, I got that wrong. Yeah. So no, I totally agree with what you're saying there, Danny, with the Bible. That I think the problem is, and I've noticed that you've also mentioned this, Santos, that when people tend to read the Bible, they're actually looking at it as a kindergarten story. That's the way that the Vatican wants us to read it, instead of actually looking beneath it and reading between the lines and interpreting it the way it's meant to be interpreted. What do you think about that, Santos?
Yeah. The Bible is a manual for physiological regeneration. The elixir of life is hiding within its pages, and that's all it is. But there's also a very powerful astrotheological source in the Bible, a theme that runs through it. It's all astrotheology. In fact, it's also a registry of astronomical phenomena. It contains astrotheological characters. All of them, they are the characters that are in the Bible: Abraham, Jesus, Moses. These are not real people. They're not real people. They are. It's a poem. It's dealing with the characters that make up the temple of God, which is our bodies. The Bible is clear about this. What do you not know, that your body is the living temple of God? And it's also Solomon's temple, you see. And when you understand how beautiful the body has been created, how wonderful it is, and all the parts therein, and then you realize that the body is made up of atoms which are likened to stars.
Yep.
And the body is the below portion of the above, which are the stars above. And everything that is happening in the body, from head to toe, can be perfectly syncretized and connected with the stars above, because that is where our bodies come from. Every single star that you see up in the heavens are all in our bodies. We are a holographic microcosm of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
When the Mayans talk about the return of Quetzalcoatl, when they talk about the return of Jesus Christ, these kinds of things are light that actually comes from these various areas of the cosmos that touch us in different ways. And this is the research that I believe that Bill Donahue is also finding out, and what I'm noticing as well. For example, and we'll also find that you'll find that over time when you start looking at the research that there are certain areas of the cosmos that connect to or are very similar to our bodies in particular areas, just like Santos goes over in his latest video set, that these areas are connected in more ways than you can imagine. And you can actually even see this in some of the church's artwork, some of the things that they've been hiding for such a long time. And I've also posted my public link to my photo album, and I believe there's a tie to the Orion Nebula and the pineal gland. You know, in Genesis 32:30, Jacob calls the name of the place the pineal, for I have seen God face to face.
Yeah, very interesting. And I suppose it's very similar to what Santos is saying about the Bible being, you know, they're not people that they're talking about. And it's the same with the artwork. When you're looking at artwork and it's got Jesus and Mary and all of these characters, you're actually looking at the cosmos. We have to understand that we've got to see things and perceive them beneath the level of understanding that we've been allowed to have. It's like they've constructed this reality, and we're only allowed to think within this little box that they've put us in. And I suppose it's not until we can actually move outside that box that we can start understanding that there's so much more. And I think this is where you guys really step up and start making people realise, as you said, Danny, to start using the other side of their brain. So
right. I think the real important thing here is no matter how much you think you know, it's always important to be able to leave enough room to reinvent yourself a little bit, because I'm sure that there's a lot of things that can be adjusted from what Santos and I have researched and figured out so far, but you can't be so rigid in your beliefs that you cannot allow yourself to have another perspective or another point of view about details and such. And I think this is what's been happening for such a long time, for so many centuries, is that people have been so rigid in their beliefs that we haven't been able to grow as a society.
That's right. But I do think that there is a special cosmic light that seems to be, you know, now shining upon us, because the rate of expansion for people is just phenomenal. I mean, you know, I've said it many times that I kind of woke up in '99. That's when things started, coming clear for me. And around that time, there really wasn't anyone talking about any of this. And to now see so many people starting to get it, I mean, there's a lot more that still need to get it, but we're obviously tapping into something. And I think that the only thing that's preventing a lot of people from actually also tapping into this is chemicals and toxins, and there's the chemtrails that they're trying to block a lot of this. But also, I think it's fear, Danny. Fear is also something that separates us from consciousness.
Well, it does, because when it's proven that if your body is in a state of fear, your mind is in a state of fear, and this is, you can be looked at even at almost a cellular level, that you don't grow, you don't expand. So, and that's the whole purpose of keeping people in fear, is so that they can't allow themselves to expand. There's a lot of fear out there on YouTube for your listeners, and there's a couple things that I always try to keep in mind. If someone tells you to stay away from something and not to pay attention to it, or don't listen to it, or don't watch it, or don't absorb the info, there's something wrong with that.
That's right.
This is the exact type of thing that the church has tried to do to people for centuries, by saying, don't look at that, that's evil, stay away from that, don't pay attention to this. And when you do that you cannot expand your consciousness, because you only get one side of the story. The only way you really ever get to the truth is to take a look at the information across cultures all over the place and compare. I mean, it would be the same as somebody watching only Fox News. Right? Yeah. There's like a couple of my family members, I think they're like that. And of course, you can't reason with them, and they'll tell you that Fox News is fair and balanced. And when you ask them where they got the idea that Fox News was fair and balanced, they got it from Fox News. So, that's the way that religion is as well. And these people have got to step out of the box and start allowing themselves to say, well, maybe they meant this by this particular thing. Maybe they didn't mean it's somebody external that's going to come and save us. There's nobody that can save you but yourself.
No, there is no one coming to save us. We're it. Actually, I really liked what you said last night when I was watching your video, Santos, the physics and myths, life and the Bible. And towards the end of the second part, you motion towards all of your books and your research, and you said, I don't go to a guru, I don't go anywhere to get this information. Here it is, all before you. You can take any of this and do this yourself. And I think that's what a lot of people are missing. They are just happy to gravitate towards one particular person or one particular truth and take that all as their own without actually verifying it and doing the research. And you know, I said it before, there is no easy way to expanding consciously. We all have to do our own work. And even the Egyptians, said that life was made to seek knowledge, and people need to seek it out, to go and get the books, go and do the research, verify the information. Even if it sounds, absolutely wonderful from that YouTube channel, it's still just taking someone's truth for your own without actually looking at it from a different, angle and investigating it from all different angles. Do you have anything to add to that, Santos?
Yep. I've got a good point to make on that, because the reason people are not joining these dots is because they don't trust in their own intuition. They've been educated since kindergarten. And education is based on, it's basically based on reason and logic.
Yep.
See, yeah, and this is what a great writer had to say. George W. Carey. He's the guy that I sourced for most of the information. Your body is the Holy Land.
Yep.
And this is another book of his. It's called The Wonders of the Human Body, Physical Regeneration According to the Laws of Chemistry and Physiology. This is what he has to say about the subject. Let us make the proper distinction between reason and intuition. Intuition is knowing. Reason is only a supposition that a certain thing or theory is true.
Right.
If it be demonstrated that the theory is false, the structure or argument built upon the sand formation of reason falls. Intuition does not depend upon reason or so-called logical deductions.
Yeah.
To psychometrize, we should wait for the still small voice of intuition and not attempt to find truth by the material roads of reason and logic. Now, what do you get out there in the institutions? Oh, you've got to study the trivium,
Yeah.
Logic, grammar, and rhetoric. And there are quite a few proponents and prophets and exponents of this. They go around, and if your argument doesn't measure up to the trivium and to logic, they ridicule you.
Yeah. Yep.
And they also.
That is a great analogy. One of the things that I just basically disproved or debunked was the phenomenon they call pareidolia, which is basically seeing faces in the clouds. And when I basically debunked it, and see, this is one of the ways that the educational system shuts down people's right brain. What they basically say is, it says, pareidolia is a psychological phenomenon involving a vague and random stimulus, often involving an image or sound being perceived as significant, which is a type of apophenia, which they say basically is seeing significant things in meaningless or random data. The bottom line is that who gets to decide what that meaningless or random data is? And for example, right. I gave an example of a stereogram, and that you can find within those dots an actual intelligent message. And the whole point behind all this is that I personally believe, and what I've shown so far, is that the cosmos does communicate visually. But the thing is that people are taught that these types of things don't exist. And this is the right brain functioning. This isn't the left brain functioning, it's the right brain, but they tell you, oh, you're just seeing stuff. So they shut people's ability to be able to use these types of things that the Mayans used a long time ago and the ancients used a long time ago, and just mark it off as a medical condition.
Yes, it's like what Santos said, we've been conditioned to not trust in our own intuition. We have to always look to somebody else to tell us what it is we should do and what it is we should believe. And I think a lot of people at the moment just don't have the courage to actually trust in their own intuition and their own feelings. And, you know, I know as well as myself that you, Danny and Santos, we all use our intuition. Probably half of the time that we're researching, we're using our intuition. It is one of the, you know, the things that we depend on to help us discern through information because, I mean, let's face it, there is so much crap out there at the moment coming from us at all different angles. So I think someone said it really well. Someone said the other day to me, it's not about thinking, it's about feeling through this time. It's more a time now that we have to go back and start feeling our way through these times rather than thinking our way through these times.
Yeah.
I almost think it's kind of a combination of both. For
absolutely.
For example, okay, so there are some very abstract things that I present that I think are probably a little bit ahead of what a lot of people are willing to accept, but yet I keep finding truths with it. For example, some of the images that I've found out there, and you've seen them, and I've actually shown them, you know, break them down so people can actually see them. But they tell stories. The cosmos actually tells stories if you look for it. But you know, the problem is that a lot of people they see things. For example, like you can see faces in the clouds, for example. But unless you actually prove those things rationally and logically, then it really means nothing. It's just data. So, you know, and I think that's why we have to use a combination of both of our left brain and our right brain, but we can't allow our left brain to keep our right brain from functioning. And that's what we've been taught.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got to break out of that prison that they've enclosed our consciousness in and allow it to expand and allow ourselves to perceive things differently, you know, and sometimes it's a little bit uncomfortable. You know, when you've existed in a reality that you've always assumed to be solid and rigid and it is what you've always, you know, assumed it to be, then suddenly when you start exploring other areas and other perceptions, it does become a little bit uncomfortable. But, you know, I just say to those people, you know, go with your instincts. You know, if something's leading you somewhere, allow it to continue to flow. Don't shut it down because of preconceived ideas, because I think that's when you're working through indoctrination and conditioning.
Yeah, I think you had a really good thing you said the other day, Dee, when you were talking about the Illuminati, and the push of all of that is a lot of distraction.
Yeah. Yep.
You admit,
absolutely.
You know, basically, you know, there's so much Illuminati this and Illuminati that out there that people have taken all of this ancient symbolism, just like they took the swastika, and they totally distorted the meaning of it in Nazi Germany. And so now all of these ancient all this ancient symbolism that you see, all the Christians are just scared to death of the hexagram, the eye and the triangle, all these things that we see out there, the eye of providence, that is. And it's a shame because all of this stuff, if you really start taking a look at the meaning of the symbolism, it's not something that's, quote, evil. It's something that tells us more about the universe. But yet they've taught that it's all evil and it's all associated to bad things now, you know, the Illuminati and everything.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
It's really a shame. I find it just really a shame that we're totally trashing all of our history with stuff like this.
Yeah. I mean, look, Danny, you only have to type Saturn into YouTube and see the videos that come up, you know, and it is just really sad that people cannot move beyond that indoctrination because, seriously, they are really enslaved within the Illuminati. They're doing exactly what the Illuminati want them to do, and that is to be fearful of something that is really not to be feared. And, you know, I mean, Saturn, of course, as you'll probably explain, Santos, has many aspects to it, not just negative, you know, and, you know, people need to understand that 666 and Saturn are not evil. They're not inherently evil. There is a lot of information about 666 that is actually very empowering. And from what we're researching and what you're discovering too, Danny, you know, we can see clearly the reasons that the power elite and the Vatican and the religions have wanted us to ignore the number 666 and be fearful of that number and be fearful of Saturn. So, Santos, can you give us a little bit of insight to Saturn and what you know about Saturn as the planet and how that affects us in both polarities?
Yeah, well, there's nothing all evil or all good out there. That's that's something in the dualistic world that we live in. But in unity, they're just doing their job. Just the physical world manifests as good and evil.
That's right.
The spirit world is different. There is spirit and matter. There is invisible stuff and there is visible stuff. In the Bible, that's called the Word made flesh.
Yep.
And the Word was made flesh. The Word is the Son of God, which is the child of light, electromagnetism. According to the Bible itself, it says God is light.
Yeah.
So we needn't go past what is written, in the Holy Scriptures. They're great works. They poetically explain everything that is going on. So light is the source of everything, and electromagnetism is producing all the effects. That's the Word made flesh. Yeah. So Saturn does things that we consider to be evil because astrologers know for a fact that 50% of the illnesses on this planet are associated with Saturn's vibration.
Right.
Yes. Everything's about vibration. That's
vibration.
What astrology... Yeah, vibration, right. Angles of light, sound, harmonics. So there's no evil Satan living on Saturn that's going to descend upon our planet and, eat our babies? No.
Great. I feel so much better that you've cleared that up, Santos.
It's the planet.
Can you explain the history of what you know about what happened to Saturn a long time ago?
Well, yeah. According to the scriptures, Saturn was a great luminary in the solar system. Now, if you go to a very useful website called Thunderbolts Project, Wallace Thornhill and Don Scott and David Talbot they explain that according to the myths, they have deciphered the myths of all the ancient peoples, the Hopis, the Mayans, etc., and they have ascertained and discerned from these myths that Saturn was a great luminary and the central sun of our solar system in a coaxial orbit with our Earth and Venus and Mars. The four planets were in a coaxial arrangement, like beads on a string. Right. Whereas now our solar system is not in a coaxial; it's an orbital thing. It's a conical vortex solar system now. Yeah. Not that it never was. It changes. The Mayans teach this. The Mayans teach that the sun that we have now is the fifth sun. Yeah. Or I think it's the fourth sun. Nevertheless, they know that suns come and go. Yeah. Saturn was the central sun. It fell from its position. This coaxial arrangement was broken and shattered. And Saturn fell from his glorious, luminous position to the far reaches, the outer parts of the solar system, and Saturn's light now is very, very dim. Yes. And the light that we get from Saturn is not healthy. The light that we get from Jupiter, on the other hand, is very, very healthy. And it all has to do with harmonics and vibration. Some vibration...
So basically when Saturn moved, it changed the system, our solar system, and so now we have all of these different angles or angels yes. of light that are constantly mutable and changing, correct?
Yep, that's it.
Where we didn't have that before, and we always had Saturn as the sun in one place, and that's the reason it was in the golden age, correct? Because things were always harmonious, and there wasn't things changing all the time. Is that correct?
Yep, that's exactly how it works. Saturn now has a vibration that, when it reaches us, it actually does us harm. But it is essential in the solar system. Mm-hmm. Mars and Saturn are both malefics, which mean their vibrations are not really healthy for us. In fact, between the two of them, 90% of the illnesses on the Earth occur, according to Al-Biruni, the great astrologer, and many other astrologers concur. But whereas Venus and Jupiter, their rays are very, very benefic and very healing to the human organism. But we need both of those. We need Mars. It's not that, we try to avoid Mars at all costs. No, we need that energy because Mars's energy is very, very active. It gives us the principle of action in the solar system. Without that active force in the solar system, even though it's malefic and harmful, we wouldn't get a lot of things done. We would be lazy because we'd have a lot of Venus. Venus causes us to be fat and lazy and luxurious and.
Hey, that's my ruling planet, Santos. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I suppose, Santos, what you're explaining there is polarity, and that we really need, both the yin and yang of everything, don't we, to continually, have motion and have momentum and energy. So, I totally understand what you're saying.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just hermetic.
That's exactly right.
The universe is balanced, and you can't have all of one thing. You always have to have balance, just like there's always destruction and creation going on everywhere, but that's just part of the balance of the universe. And so we need Saturn, and we need Mars, and we need these other planets and their vibrations just as much as we need the ones on the opposite pole. And it's the way that they all mix their vibrations that creates the balance that we have here.
Absolutely. And I suppose that's why when people, start talking into that fear-based energy about the Illuminati is going to enslave us and the New World Order's coming and that's going to be continual enslavement, I start to think back to Hermetics and how everything's rhythm and everything's polarity. So we can't always have evil on our planet. It has to be balanced. So, I think that this is why we're seeing the power elite struggling at the moment and imploding. And I think a lot of people don't understand that when we see them clamping down on our freedoms, that's because they're worried. That's because they're losing control. So, you've got to look at the other side of the coin and not just focus on the fear of, oh my God, look what they're doing to the internet, look what they're doing here. It's basically what they're doing to try and keep control because they know that they're losing control. And that's because we are coming into a very empowering and special time. So, Santos, do you want to talk a little bit about the age of Aquarius and what that means for our planet?
Yeah, look, the ages come and they go, and they can't be stopped. We live in cycles. And in the scriptures, the famous words of the prophet Jesus, which is basically a rip-off of Hermes and Plato. That's all it is. Yeah. Where he says, when you see the sign of the Son of Man in the heavens, know that the kingdom of God is near. The sign of the Son of Man in the heavens, well, there's only one Son of Man in the zodiac, that's Aquarius. All the rest you've got, Aries is a ram, Taurus is a bull, Gemini are the twins, Cancer is the crab. You come to Aquarius, and it's a man. It's the sign of the Son of Man. It's upon us. It's in the equinox. It's in the equinox right now. Aquarius, on the 21st of March, you will see, when you look east at 6 a.m., you will see Aquarius.
Yep.
And before that, for 2,000 years, was the two fish of Pisces. Now, so we see the sign of the Son of Man, and we know that the kingdom of God is near. What's the kingdom of God? Well, when you look at the scriptures, it tells you. It says, it will be the kingdom of heaven, because right now the earth has been administered not by the heavens, but by the earth, which means that man is controlling it by its fictional institutions.
Yeah.
In other words, what does the Universal Catholic Church say in their dogma and doctrines? That outside of the Catholic Church, one cannot be saved. And I've shown in my presentations that by means of their papal bulls and trusts, they have enslaved, so to speak, mankind, and they have administered the affairs on this earth. Yep. When you get a birth certificate in hospital, you are actually signing up to this administration.
Yep.
It's a baptism into the Catholic Church, and I've proven this. Now,
specifically says there is no salvation without the church. Is exactly their word.
Yeah, in Latin it's salus extra ecclesia non est, which means outside of this church there is no salvation. Yep. And they believe it. Believe you me, they believe this. So that's why they are so zealous. The Jesuits, they will kill you. The Vatican armies, they will kill you. In the Crusade, they were killing heretics. In the Inquisition, they were killing heretics because they were trying to, protect Christendom, the kingdom of Christ. See, that Christendom is actually the Antichrist. Yes. Until the age of Aquarius established itself on this earth, and the kingdom of heavens establishes itself on this earth, we will not have peace, because it's a fictional kingdom. Now, the Bible also says that you will be a nation of kingdom and priests for 1,000 years. Well, what does that mean? Well, all the faithful and all the ones who are endeavouring to be sovereign and free from this Antichrist corporate fascist government, they will be a nation of kingdom and priests, kings and priests. Well, you won't be taught in church what that means, but I'll pull out the key to open the understanding of what that means. When you are a king, you are a sovereign. Only kings are sovereigns. That's why the judge, when you go to court, the judge is the king, because he is asking the question. Right.
Yes.
And you look at the word asking and you break it into two words, and it's as king. Ask king. That's why they are always first to ask the questions. They sit on their throne, on the bench. They act like God. They are the inquisitors for the Roman Church, sitting at the hearing. You are the accused at the hearing. The prosecutor is making an accusation against you, and you have to ask forgiveness, for you have sinned. It's the Inquisition.
Yeah.
And
you're
this is
already
why
born into sin. Don't forget, you're already born into sin. You're a sinner as soon as you enter the world.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, this is why they want you to sign their papers, because sign is another word for sin. They've thrown in a silent G in there just to confuse you. Would you like to sign this paper, please, that sends you into jail? And you go ahead and you put this scribbly line on there, and for them, it means that you go to jail, and because you've sinned. You've signed.
Yeah.
Now, so when you go into court asking the questions, you now are the king. This is what it means. You will be a nation of kings and priests. The priest part, that means that you will be a priest unto yourself, which is what you were meant to be in the first place. Because the moment you go to a priest at church to tickle your ears, that is the moment that you have defaulted on your responsibility of getting in tune by meditation to your intuition. And by the way, I want to read another portion from this book. From the same book, he says, intuition is information direct from the source of all knowledge, vibrating the brain cells and nerve centers of the human organism, the temple or instrument of the living God, at different rates or tones according to the chemical combination of physical atoms composing the organism.
Wow.
So if intuition is information direct from the source, and we're going to church to be educated by the priests, we are defaulting on our own responsibility. Simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally handing our power over to them. And doing it willingly.
Not only that, people have defaulted on their responsibility as soon as they start listening to interpretations of whatever these priests want to throw at them with the Bible. That's one of the things that I find I always scratching my head all the time, because these poor people out there, they don't pick it up and read it themselves and interpret it themselves. What they do is they go to church and they let somebody else tell them what things mean. And, you can go out to the internet and you can find, for example, you can go look at different Bible versions. There's probably, 20 of them out there, if not more. And you go pick out whatever verse you want to pick out, and they all have something slightly different to say about the same thing. And so you have all these different versions of the Bible. You have all these different versions of people telling you what they mean. And then you have all these different religions, and so they all have their own versions. And, just like I've heard Santos say before, you have these arguments out there that the church is supposed to bring people together, but actually it does exactly the opposite, because Christians hate the Mormons, Mormons hate the, and it just goes that way all the way around. And then we bring it into politics on top of that.
Yeah.
So, it really is, it's really got to be something that people get out of and looking at this is the Word of God, because it is the Word of, and it's a very important book for reference, but it's not the only one out there, and it should be looked at across cultures and compared to find out the real meanings behind some of this stuff. But people just don't want to do it. They're lazy. They want it fed to them.
Right.
They want it fed to them, and then of course people are welcome to do that, and then they throw fear in there too, like, and if you don't do this, you're going to go to hell forever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, you're right. People are just so conditioned to just be fed information that they don't even question it. And, some of them, I suppose, have been so indoctrinated since birth that they just even fear thinking outside that little rigid box that they've been placed in, that little prison that they've been placed in. And I think that's why they get so negative, because I know, Danny, you've experienced on YouTube when bringing out some information in regards to the truth behind 666 and Saturn. You've really been attacked by these
There's 66 books of the Bible. Did you know that? There's 66 books of the Bible.
Yeah, I know. That's
if you go and you take a look at, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Carl Monk and the Code, which he basically has looked at these ancient sites like Stonehenge and the pyramids, and he can read these things like a newspaper now. And for example, Stonehenge and a lot of these ancient sites, they have these hidden numbers inside them. For example, Stonehenge's grid latitude, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it's 21,600. But what you find is that 666 actually ends up being a code and tells us about all kinds of things in the universe. If you multiply 6 times 6 times 6 together, you get 216. And if you start adding harmonics of 0, 2160 is the diameter in miles of the moon. And 2160 is also 1/12 of the precession. 21,600 is also the same nautical miles around the Earth. And then you take that and you multiply 216 times 2, you get 432 squared at the speed of light. So they were telling us very important things a long time ago. And I believe that one of the reasons when they say 666 is the number of a man, it basically is telling us that our whole reality is made up of sixes. And and so the ancients were telling this a long time ago, and we can find out all kinds of things. The Earth, for example, speed of the Earth in miles per hour. And by the way, another good topic to go into at a later time is that the Britain and the Queen have been hiding the system of measurement that they've used all the way back in the ancient times, which is the pyramid inch, which they've discovered not too long ago. I believe Carl Monk even brought it up, is that, these guys have been hiding this from us. Apparently they just magically came up with it. But 666, you multiply that times 3, you get 216, and that code right there, it tells us all kinds of things about our reality. And they've been trying to hide it from us. So what do these people do? They take the whole 666 and they turn it into this whole thing being the beast, which the beast is, there's no place in the Bible at all that the beast says that it's the devil. There's also no place in the Bible at all that says that Lucifer is Satan, because Lucifer is only mentioned one time in the Bible. And then they also take things like the whole serpent talking to Eve, literally, instead of realizing that that maybe when they say the word atom, A-T-U-M, which came from none, nothing, right? And you take a look at atom, what you're really talking about is ionic bonding. The word Anu, for example, which was the Babylonian sky god, if you look that up in Sanskrit, it means atomic. So you have, and that's the sky god that came from nothing, but people don't want to look at these other interpretations. I believe even Bill Donahue even goes into this as well, that they're talking about atom, they're talking about ionic bonding.
Did you know that he's joining us in the School of the Holy Science, Danny?
Yes, I heard that news.
You just told me that the other day, and I'm very excited to see him there.
It's really exciting.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I want to share this with listeners because this is pretty great. It's for me anyway. Jordan Maxwell put out a newsletter a couple of weeks ago, and he, in fact, I'll pull the letter up because I'm so honoured by this, and I'm going to be interviewed, hopefully, on American Freedom Radio, the Danny Romero at American Freedom Radio is trying to hook us two together so that we can, that'll be fantastic. But I want to share this with you, if you don't mind. This is how the newsletter goes. The following links are highly recommended by Jordan Maxwell. The links below are the best of many subjects that Jordan Maxwell speaks on. Please make a bookmark or note these links, for they are filled with very important research you need to know. Now, I'm on the top of the list, number 1, Santos Bonacci. Now, I feel embarrassed because these are the guys that he puts below me that just outshine me in terms of intelligence and brilliance and everything like that. He's got at number 2, Lloyd Pye. Number 3, Maurice Cotterell. Number 4, Jan Lamprecht. I hope I've spelt that right, pronounced that right. Number 5, Jay Widener. What a gem. Number 6, Stephen Holer. What a gem. Bill Jenkins, Stephen Meller, Manly P. Hall. There you go.
Wow.
Like you're in good company, man. That's awesome.
Well, yeah. Well, you know, Jordan Maxwell is one of those people that have joined a lot of dots, Michael Sarian and people like that, and so he appreciates that. Whereas the educational system, rather than joining dots, they compartmentalize us and divide and conquer, so that everyone's a little specialist in one field, knows nothing about anything else, but specializes in one field. And therefore, Rome has been able to divide mankind by not allowing them to tap into their intuition and being knowledgeable in many fields, which is possible. It's quite possible, you know, you don't get confused. When I was young, I taught myself languages. I didn't have a teacher, I bought books. I learned Spanish, Portuguese, French, I learned a bit of German, Greek. I can read and write Greek and speak basic Greek. I'm doing Japanese now, I'm doing quite well with Japanese, Italian, Spanish, of course. But how did I do that? Well, if you learn things properly and archive them in the brain in the proper way, you can always access that information, and you don't get confused. You don't go speaking Italian and then throwing in Spanish words, you know, as though the brain can't work out which is which. And see, this is the other thing that they do. They, if you get to learn a second language in school, you notice that some people, you know, they do French for 5 years and all they can say is bonjour.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of 5 years, and you wonder, well, for 5 years, I mean, it took me 3 months to learn Spanish. I was
that's
very
the difference between somebody who wants to learn and somebody who's forced to learn, or is doing it for another reason. You know, I mean, there's lots of people, like, there was somebody the other day who was saying, well, I have 25 years of experience in this particular research, but yet this person's throwing videos of, Seer, Saturn stuff up there. These people are not, these people are rigid in their beliefs, and there's a difference between people like you, Santos, who want to learn and want to learn more things, and people who are just doing it so that they can say that they've done it. There's a huge difference.
Yeah, those types of people have no originality, no intuition. They've got plenty of logic and reason and education, and the reason they are fearmongers is because that's what it produces. Intuition produces love.
Yep.
And this is why the hierarchical institutions of this world are very manly and very boyish, and only the boys get the best jobs. You'll find that you won't find many female presidents of the United States of America.
No.
You won't find many females with intuition in positions of authority. The boys get those jobs, and the Vatican is behind all of that because the boys are logical, and there's nothing wrong with logic.
I've been in the corporate industry now for 15 years, and I can tell you this: the only way you get very far, usually at all, is if you're one of the boys, and that's completely correct.
Yeah, not what you know, it's who you know.
That's
yeah,
right.
It's a boys' club.
Mm-hmm.
And even in church, when I was a Jehovah's Witness for 20 years, the sisters, if they had to pray, because there were no qualified brothers to offer a prayer to Jehovah, they would have to put a veil over their heads because the angels are offended that a woman is praying to God.
Yes.
And they would have to hide their faces. Can you believe that?
Did you hear the news yesterday about the pastor that came on? This is actually on, I believe it was the Young Turks. I believe Alex Jones may have had it on there as well. But a pastor came on and publicly said that he thinks that the government should kill all of the gay people because it says in the Bible that you shouldn't be homosexual. And of course, that means that he's only interpret the Bible one way. Of course, a man lying with a man may be that the left brain's lying with the left brain and not with the right brain. But of course, he thinks that the government thinks that they should, they should just kill all the gay people out there because that's what the Bible says. And God forbid if you eat, anything that's shellfish or anything like that in the ocean because you've sinned or spill your seed. All this is just craziness.
Of course, they're quoting Matthew, hypothetically Matthew 5, chapter 6, where Jesus says, "Kill gay people." That's an obvious. That's a well-known quote of Jesus. Jesus says, "Go and kill," doesn't he? Of course. Well, this is how absurd they are. Yeah. That Jesus preaches a gospel of love and salvation, and just love your enemies, and yet they want to kill. Why? Because they're killers. They're not Christian. They're not real Christians. You've got to understand, churchgoers are not real Christians. They work for the Antichrist. They are foot soldiers of Rome, and therefore they are participating in killing, and they are killers. This is why it's urgent that the news and the information get out there that churches must be destroyed if we're going to have peace on this earth. Christendom,
I totally agree 125%, and that's one of my huge messages out there.
Is the Antichrist. That's what it is. It's not Christianity. It's the Antichrist. Christ is within. The beautiful Christ, and I've proven it in my video, your body is the Holy Land. The Christ is the oil that flows in your spine, and the spine is the river that flows out of the Garden of Eden, which is the cerebrum. And when you look at the nervous system, the fully developed nervous system of the human being, you realize that there is no animal like it, that we are quite unique, even though whales and dolphins and chimpanzees and all these other dogs and animals are really, really super intelligent. There's nothing on this planet like the human being that can organize, that can do such wonderful things, build skyscrapers, go to the moon, whatever. That's pretty good, but it's still abhorrent technology. It's still nothing compared to what we can achieve if we go into the...
And that's the reason why Jesus was called the Christ. His name wasn't Jesus Christ. It was Jesus of Nazareth, right? And Jesus is actually even a Greek name, right? And so when one even steps out and beyond what you're talking about and takes a look across culture, what you see what the Christ is, it means higher consciousness, also called superconsciousness, yoga, objective consciousness, Gurdjieff, Buddhic consciousness, theosophy, cosmic consciousness, God consciousness, Hinduism, Christ consciousness. This is all the same thing, and it's in alignment with all of these other religions. It's just that it's been twisted by the churches into meaning something completely different than what it was meant to be.
Divide and conquer, basically, I think is what they've done. Because, I mean, when you look into Karl Marx's work, he's basically showing that all of these, temples and pyramids and these ancient structures are using the same sacred geometry and the same mathematics. So obviously they were all connected at one time. There was a oneness on this planet, and I think that that's what this Antichrist has sought to do, and that is to separate us. And even what you're saying, Santos, between the male and the female, you see that now there's a real division of the sexes. They play us off against each other all the time, and this is what they do to distract us and, take our power from us. And people need to start realizing this, and stop giving away their power and start understanding that we have to start loving one another. And that is just from a point of wanting to see the person next to us doing better, of wanting to live in a better world, and not wanting to live with so much violence and hate and bloodshed. Because really, I think it's only a small percentage of the planet that wants us to be in that state of consciousness. And I think it's just our apathy and inability to move beyond our kind of constrained reality that they've placed us in that allows them to keep getting away with it. So no one's coming to save us. There is no Galactic Federation of Light. There is no Jesus coming. This is it. This is our time now to step forward into the light and to start empowering ourselves and each other. And that's done through consciously expanding and researching, because I think that when we start understanding hermetics and occult sciences and all of these different philosophies, our perspective starts changing, our reality starts changing, we start getting it, we start realizing how special and powerful we are, and then we can actually start making some change. But while we're allowing people to tell us what to believe and what our truth is, then we're going to continue to be enslaved.
There's a race going on, though, nevertheless, for exactly what you're talking about. See, we have a great benefit that and even Terence McKenna talks about this as well. Anybody's not familiar with him, he designed the Time Wave Zero off of the I Ching. But even he talks about that we have a wonderful thing to help expand all of our consciousness right now, and that's called the Internet. Unfortunately, as everyone knows, that the government is starting to crack down on the Internet, and I believe that one of the reasons that they're doing this has nothing to do with the cybersecurity thing that they keep pushing on everybody.
Yeah.
That's just a problem, reaction, solution scenario. What they're really trying to do is shut everybody up and keep that consciousness from expanding, because they understand that people are waking up. And this is the same thing the Vatican has been doing for centuries. That's the reason we have a Vatican library that basically contains all of this information that would be beneficial to all of mankind, that they can't allow anybody to get in there and take a look at it without special permission. And even then, you have to know exactly what you're going to be asking for, and you may or may not get to read it or take a look at it. And this is because they don't want this consciousness to expand around the planet.
That's right. And I often wonder how they get away with that, because when you think about what they've actually got in that library, it is stuff that they have plundered and stolen and murdered for. Yet it seems perfectly normal for everybody to say, oh, that's okay, they can keep all that knowledge and it's theirs. And I think the Pope actually even says it is his. It is his, all of his, and unless, as you said, Danny...
Oh, they declared the whole world. I think they declared, isn't there a story behind how they declared the whole world as theirs?
Yep, absolutely. That's 1302 papal bull of Boniface VIII, Unum Sanctum. They have declared, made a claim against all other living creatures that the Vatican Corporation owns and administers the affairs on this planet. That's what they call the kingdom of heaven. But it's not. It's the kingdom of the Antichrist. The kingdom of heaven, which turns us into kings and priests, is coming. It's upon us, and it's time for us to be honourable and take the position where we can, raise the consciousness of our brothers and learn to take responsibility for our actions and to destroy with our consciousness all these corporations and all these fictions that are running amok and which are controlled by the kingdom of this earth, which is the Vatican. It's time for it to...
do they control the Queen?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. The Queen is totally controlled by the Vatican. They are the kings on the mountain.
We were talking about that last night, and I wanted to make sure. That's what I thought. I thought that is it the Black Pope that controls pretty much everything then? Nicholas.
It's no longer Nicholas the Dutch. It's now a Spaniard. But anyway, yes, the Black Pope, the Superior General of the Jesuits, that's the military arm of the Vatican. That was founded in 1534, I believe, by a Spaniard. I'll get his name in a minute. Nonetheless, that was the Counter-Reformation, you see, and the black nobility of Venice. They are the people that founded the Jesuits, and of course Venice is where all the merchandise is controlled all around the world, the banking, the whole thing, insurance, everything goes back to Venice, because you see Venice is built, it's a city that is built on the sea. Now if you understand the importance of that, I've shown in my last video, Law and Language, how Venice was built purposely on those lagoons, because the Venetians come from the Phoenicians, and the Phoenicians had their city of Tyre, which was built, there was a causeway from the mainland city of Tyre, and they had an island, an insular, they had an island city of Tyre, so there were two cities really, and it was that island city that basically controlled all the merchandise of the world, you see. This is where you get stories like, the Merchant of Venice, Shakespeare's play, merchandise and Venice, and controlling the merchant, what am I trying to say?
Materialism?
Materialism and the merchant bankers and everything. It all comes from Venice. Yeah. And they are the people that founded the Jesuits. And the reason why was so that the whole world would be bribed and would be conscripted to do the will of this kingdom called Christendom on the earth. And believe you me, all the Protestant churches, all of them, they are all in cahoots and in bed with this great whore of Babylon. They are the whorish, killing institutions under the umbrella of the Vatican, whether they believe it or not, whether they like it or not. So churchgoers are just supporting.
The Jesuits used to undergo all kinds of just self-pain and torture in order to carry out some of the most brutal acts. And I believe they, like these guys in the Jesuits, the guys in the military arm, they have a code, I believe, that came out was in the early 1900s, and I believe it's even published. Is it published in Congress? It just says that they'll do some of the most horrible things to people in order to save their particular military arm or save their faith.
Unbelievable.
Kill, destroy, burn babies, and all kinds of stuff. Now, I don't know if that is true, but it's just kind of crazy stuff.
Well, I have been doing a little bit of research into the Queen, actually, in this 60th Jubilee, and I'm finding it very much tied into the transit of Venus, Santos, and I'm finding some very disturbing connections to St. Paul's Cathedral, to the Queen, to Saturn and Venus, and particularly that she's timing everything to be right around this transit of Venus. And interestingly, I had a look at the Maya, because, they really revered Venus too. And apparently the Maya used the transit of Venus, and particularly the beginning of the transit, to divine for war and for coronation. So I found it really interesting, but I just wanted to read you something, Santos. And Danny, I've read this to Danny, and he's heard this, but the listeners, I think, are going to be very surprised at the beautiful song that the Queen is going to have sung by her from 40 little innocent children. Okay, little innocent children called the Diamond Choir will be singing this at her Jubilee for the Queen. And it comes from Proverbs, Santos, 1:20:33, the New King James Version. And this is the song that the beautiful little children will be singing to the Queen. Such a beautiful, enlightening song. And it's called The Call of Wisdom. Wisdom calls aloud outside. She raises her voice in the open squares. She cries out in the chief concourses, at the openings of the gates in the city. She speaks her words. How long, you simple ones, will you love simplicity? For scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. Turn at my rebuke. Surely I will pour out my spirit on you. I will make my words known to you, because I have called and you refused. I have stretched out my hand and no one regarded, because you disdained all my counsel and would have none of my rebuke. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock you when terror comes. When your terror comes like a storm, and your destruction comes like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you, then they will call on me, but I will not answer. They will seek me diligently, but they will not find me, because they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord. They would have none of my counsel and despise my every rebuke. Therefore they shall eat the fruit of their own way and be filled to full with their own fancies, for the turning away of the simple will slay them, and the complacency of fools will destroy them. But whoever listens to me will dwell safely and will be secure without fear of evil. Now, isn't that so enlightening and lovely for, a group of 40 beautiful, innocent little children to sing? What do you think about that, Santos?
Yeah, well, that's just the rip-off of the first psalm. That's what they always do. They get the Bible and they twist the Bible and apply it to themselves. This is what the psalm says. It says exactly that. It says, oh goodness, I'll have to find it. But
I just found it a very interesting choice.
I specifically love the part about the terror part.
Oh yeah,
any way they can put that in people's heads, any way we can throw the word terror in people's heads just one more time, it's perfect for them.
Well, I found the last verse here really interesting, because she says here, and the complacency of fools will destroy them. Basically what I get from this is she's basically saying, if you're too stupid to know the truth, well, fuck ya.
Yeah. Oh, actually, for the listeners, it's actually Proverbs. Proverbs 1 from 22 to 33. You can go there. It's a proverb. Yeah. That's what they do. They get the Bible, and because they are God Almighty on this earth, and all these little children and all these dupes and fools look up to them as though they are something worthy of veneration, and they rip the scriptures off for themselves. And basically what they do is they mire the scriptures by misapplying them, applying them to themselves. I mean, look, just one example. When Christendom conquered the Americas and established parishes all over the land, the continent of North and South America for the Vatican, and you'll find churches on every parish, because the whole country, the whole continent, is run by parishes. This is how it works. It's actually a church. The church runs America. The Vatican runs it by means of their parishes and provinces. Now, when they did that, they modelled that conquering, land-grabbing, slaying of pagan people on the Israelite model from the Old Testament, where the Lord says, go in and you must smite the Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Jebusites and the Ammonites and Edomites and all of those ites, parasites, when nothing of the sort actually happened on the historical plane, and all the best Jewish historians and scholars will tell you that. It's a myth. And those Perizzites and Ammonites, they are the lower nature. You see, the children of Israel is in reference to people who are paying attention to their consciousness and good living, and they are slaying their animal lower nature. The Perizzites are living in the stomach region, in the lower chakras. The Canaanites, Sodom and Gomorrah, Egypt, all of that is down in the lower nature, whereas Jerusalem above, Jerusalem is in the cranium. You see, where Jesus was crucified at Golgotha or Calvary. Well, that's just reference to the cranium, because all the good things, the higher nature, is in the head.
Yep.
And all the bad things is down there where the genitalia is, and where the stomach is, and the bowels and excrement, and all of these things having to do with the lower nature. And so Christendom, as stupid as they are, they went and actually physically did real killing on the historical plane, copying and emulating what the Lord God told the children of Israel to do when they entered the Promised Land, which is basically just a myth. But Christendom, this is how evil it is. It actually went and did it.
Kind of like killing gay people.
Yeah, because they're killers. I mean, you can prove that they're killers, right? This is how they kill. You go to next time a Jehovah's Witness knocks on your door, ask him, is my next door neighbour who's a Mormon, is he going to be saved? Oh no, he'll tell you. No, they are worshipping the devil. Oh, okay. My next door neighbour to the left who's a Seventh-day Adventist, are they going to be saved? Oh no, they worship the devil. God's going to kill them. At Armageddon, only Jehovah's Witnesses are going to be saved. Right. So you go to the Catholics and ask the same question. You go to the Pentecostals and ask the same question. And what they are doing, in effect, is killing all the other Christians. They're all killing each other. And, on top of that, they're killing the heretics, which they call unbelievers. So they themselves are killing the believers, and they kill the unbelievers. Therefore, they are supremacist, racist killers, and we're tolerating them. And we think, oh, there's a lot of churches in the community. Churches are good for the community.
They do so much good out there, don't they?
Oh, yeah, they kill. That's all they do.
I said to Danny the other night, Santos, that I think that the Vatican could stand out the front and burn babies, and I think the Catholics would justify it some way, you know?
Oh, yeah, because, they love God. They're a charitable organisation. They give everything they steal to themselves because they are the richest kid on the block.
Yeah.
Very charitable.
Yeah.
The charity goes to them. It's been proven that all their charities, Oxfam, Red Shield, even Salvation Army. What's the Salvation Army? It's just another church that preaches the same bullshit about a bullshit Jesus Christ that's coming in the clouds to save all these buffoons that can't save their own asses.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they need this vomitous saviour to come in the clouds, and it never will happen. It never has, and it never will.
It's a perfect way to control people. It means basically, instead of taking control of your own life and becoming a good person, and instead you're born into sin. There's nothing you can do about it, but you can kill it. You can kill everybody and murder as many people as you want to. But if you're on your deathbed and you accept Jesus Christ, you'll go to heaven and be just fine.
Yeah, and they fall for it. Oh yeah,
they do. I know.
Oh yeah, Jesus is going to save me. Jesus is going to save. I always
love it when you do those impersonations of that. It's just
I do too. Love it.
Yeah,
love it.
I'm impersonating Flanders in The Simpsons. You know Flanders.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
Home diddly dome domer, how are you, Homer? They're always hypocritically happy on the outside, but you go into their homes. I've seen it. I've seen the Jehovah's Witnesses. They look pretty polished when they go to the meetings serving Jehovah and everything like that. But when you get down to the nitty-gritty and you find out what's really going on in their homes, you'll find that they absolutely... It's a horrid atmosphere where everything's got to be regulated by Jehovah's standards, and it's persecution. They persecute themselves. They're idiots. It's
sad. It's really sad. And it's all done through fear. It's all done through fear, and... once again, we know that that's just separating us from our consciousness. So I really do hope that people start getting this message. And, sometimes I do get, and you probably would too, Santos, and you, Danny, get people that message you and thank you and say, I was very religious and I've actually started listening to your videos and looking at information and I want to thank you. I'm starting to understand that I have been lied to. So, I just really hope that more of them find the courage to just go and look for the information, because don't listen to us. Go and find the information yourself. It's there. You just have to look for it. You will find it. And you'll find the truth that you really are a very powerful and divine being. You do not need to fall on your knees to the church, that is just giving your power away to these parasites that basically do nothing but suck energy and goodness out of everybody. And I've actually even done videos on a couple of articles I found in regards to companies that the Vatican have their dirty, grubby little hands in, and that's pharmaceutical, big pharma companies, and gun corporations, places that make guns as well. So loving organisation, the Vatican, absolutely.
Oh, here's one for the Jehovah's Witnesses. Check out Randcam Corporation. Randcam Corporation. They are 51% owners of that corporation, and what do they make? Motors and parts for the military. They are a business. They're all businesses.
They are.
I know. Yep. It's all about the military-industrial complex, I believe. And these presidents that we get in our office, all they do is just pass the football. It's exactly just the way the way Alex Jones explained it, and that's basically you get one guy in and they're just a shield until they get used up, and then they bring the next guy in, and they all do the same thing. And magically, and I've looked up the statistics about how easy this is for this to happen, but they're all related by like 10th cousin or less. Now, if you take a look at genetics and statistics, and for how impossible that would be, especially in a country with a growing population from 2 million to now 300 million, for them to continue to maintain a tight-knit relationship of 10th or 11th cousin or less is actually impossible. So, so you have all these presidents that are related to each other. Some are like, second cousin, third cousin, and it's all in the family. And most of them tie back to royalty over in England, and nobody knows this. Because nobody looks for it, Danny. Nobody looks for it. Everybody's just happy to, as you said before, watch good old Fox News, and look at the trouble he's in at the moment, over in frickin' UK with what he's been doing. They're all parasites and they're working with each other. And, I have to laugh when I listen to people talking about the next election and they get all excited about, these candidates that are running. God. It's like, guys, it's already been chosen. It's already in place. The rest is just circuses, So when I go to a place, and I understand that there's good intent behind it, but when I see the Ron Paul with the 55 thumbs up right next to it, I just have to laugh, because these people don't understand that these guys have already been chosen. As soon as the banks donated more to Romney than they did any of the other guys, I said, "There's your candidate." Nobody believes me, and guess what? Here he is, and he's just another version of Obama. And then when you take a look at the way the voting system is working, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but for listeners, I'm going to brief you real quick. There is basically all the votes get funneled into Florida, and they get all tallied by this certain company that basically takes all the votes that are in this database. Of course, it supposedly can't be tampered with, but we know how that goes. But this company in Florida is actually owned by a company called Scytl, S-C-Y-T-L, and that company exists in Spain, okay? So Spain owns the company that does the reporting for the voting that's going to be done. Now, here's what's really interesting. The company Scytl is actually owned by 10 partners, of which one of them was a previous vice chairman for Goldman Sachs, and another one was actually also a 15-year Goldman Sachs veteran, and the third person is a young lady who worked for the Prime Minister in Britain. What was his name?
Blair?
Cameron?
Cameron?
Tony.
Tony Blair?
Yeah, Tony Blair. I don't know why I couldn't remember. Yeah. Tony Blair, and her objective was for when she worked for him, and now she's working at this company that basically is the major investor in Seidel. Her job was for government to take care of government objectives. So basically, Goldman Sachs owns the company that's doing the reporting, and it's in Spain for Florida. It's going to tally all the votes over 900 districts. If people don't think that the voting system is broken, they're nuts. So the bottom line is, what I try to tell people, look, you put gas in a car that has a broken engine. What's the point in doing that? You've got to change the system so you can vote all you want to, and that's where they've got people fooled. They think people can just go and vote, and that's it, and people feel like they've done the right thing, that they voted like they were supposed to, but it's all a lie. It's all an illusion. And so when I see this Ron Paul with the 55 thumbs up, I just laugh. But, I mean, there is a good thing about him doing all that because he got his voice out and stuff like that, and that's great. But people are fooling themselves if they think it really means any difference as far as who's going to be in office. We've got to make the system change, and they've got to understand the system is broken. And your vote does not count. It never has, at least since Kennedy. And so we've really got to change.
Hey, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I said, and look what happened to him, Kennedy.
Oh, I know. Somebody come. I mean, if Ron Paul had gotten into office and actually really wanted to make a difference, he'd probably be assassinated. That's probably just the way that they'd handle it. So, our government's been taken over. The government is too big, and I think people are starting to wake up. I really do. It's starting to get shoved in their face. It's getting to the point where people, and I knew this was going to happen this way, you have some folks that wake up early, and then some folks are just going to wait until there's literally a gun against their head before they decide to wake up. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, because that's the kind of thing that happened during World War II.
Yeah. And the gun in the head's probably going to be, FEMA, the FEMA camp. If you're going to wait...
these guys are really smart, the way that they did things, because they understand that if you can... See, they've had all the time in the world. They have time on their side, and they always have, because they can take their time in re-educating the young the way they want the young to think. So it's called programming. And so that's the reason nobody looks back at World War II. They don't take a look at their history to see what's going on right now, because these people have been totally reconditioned and re-educated. I mean, they've had, 2 or 3 generations now to do that? So,
Yeah, they've had quite a while to stitch us up, haven't they? And it's been something that's continued probably since Rome, would you say, Santos, is when the bread and circuses began?
Yep. Rome certainly polished up the old empire concept, and the Julius Caesar family. I've just had a book that's landed on my table that I ordered from Amazon by Francesco Carotta. I can't wait to read it, and it's titled Jesus Was Caesar. And he proves it. I mean, I know he proves it. I know what I'm going to find in this book, exactly what I've been saying all along. I've got hundreds of these books by great scholarly men and women who have done great work to find out and uncover that the whole Jesus story is a Roman fiction. It's a pure Roman fiction. It's the greatest third-party debt-collecting scheme of all time. Tax collecting, that is. Yeah, they've enriched themselves on this Jesus bullshit story for 2,000 years. Rome has polished up what the Egyptians and the Babylonians and all of those people bequeathed to them when they became corrupted in the Dark Ages. Before that, Egypt and Babylon and all those places, India and the Mayans and everything, they were pure, and they taught this pure science. It was all over the world. It was holistic. It was syncretic. Everybody knew this science. And then came the fall. Yeah. The fall from the Dark Ages. Rome is just the last of these empires, and it's still around. And this is what people need to understand. When the Bible says that the kingdom of heaven is coming, heavens has to do with consciousness.
Yep.
Because kingdom of earth has to do with unconsciousness. And unconsciousness has been ruling.
Yeah.
And how so? Well, look at the form of governments that are ruling us. They are corporations. What's a corporation? A corpse. Is a corpse conscious or is it unconscious?
That's it.
It's unconscious.
That's it.
And money, actually money as well, all the forms of money that... See, all of these things don't have souls. Corporations don't have souls. The decisions that they make are not based off of, conscious feeling for other human beings or the life or the... And that's the reason that since everything is based off of profit, then it doesn't... they would rather make a profit than make sure that they clean up their mess and take care of the planet and take care of other people. And money and putting things in scarcity, it's all based off of a profit. They would rather starve people and make a profit than make sure people are fed. And that's what money does to people, in my opinion. I think money, when you take a look at all of the problems that we have in the world, it all comes down to money. It really does.
Always.
And I know there's some people out there that say money isn't bad, it's greed that's bad, but you know what? No matter where you take a look at it, money puts people in a survival mode. People feel like they have to have money in order to live on this planet. Well, why should I have to have money to live on the planet?
That's right. That's right. No, and wasn't there a couple of popes that actually even talked about the prophet of Christ, Santos? There was one, Leo, wasn't he? And he said what was that quote that he said?
Are you talking about the 12?
It was something like how well this prophet of Christ has been for us. We've done so well off it.
Oh yeah, that's the guy. That's the guy who was actually from the De Medici family, the Medicis, in Florence. He's Giovanni de Medici. He was Leo X, and he said it was well known how profitable this fable of Christ has been to us.
Yeah.
And that was recorded by one of his cardinals, who overheard him saying it and recorded it and wrote it down. Of course, the naysayers and the deniers are going to say, oh, but he meant this and he meant that. No, they know the inside story of this buffoon Saviour that's going to come and save us. They know that it's the Christ that saves you is within. They've made a historical Roman version of it so that it can enslave the masses. And this is what's going to be destroyed. This whole religious perverted structure of fictional, all the fictions are going. They're going to go because consciousness is what destroys them. It's the kingdom of heaven that's coming to this earth, where we will be kings and priests.
Yep.
That's why it's so important that, and some of us get really attacked. I know, Elizabeth Santos, you were asking me the other day just how do you disable the comments on your videos, because some of these people are really attacking other people out there, but it's just really important right now, especially while we still have the internet to our disposal, to get the facts out there. And what I've learned to do more and more is find a way to connect with those people that, and sometimes you kind of have to get on their level. You have to understand that the way that they think, and then try to get on that level and help them out of it. A lot of times it doesn't help to just to bash them all, without understanding where they're coming from, because a lot of these poor people are just programmed, and I totally understand that, but we've got to be able to find a way to connect to them, show them the facts while we can, and I highly suggest that if you're out there and you're a researcher and you're coming across great information, print everything, okay? Print it to a PDF file or something like that, because the way that the government is going into these various sites and pulling them down with their nice little ICE logo on there and stuff like that, it's really important that you print the information while you can so you can refer to it, make videos, and get the information out while it's still, while you're still able to do that.
That's right. And I think, the more people that are speaking out, I see a lot of people that misunderstand what anger can be used for, and think that, if you're angry about something, then you're somehow not spiritual. And, people need to understand that apathy is what has been a conditioning tool that they've used, that we just have to sit on our asses and a saviour's going to come, or mass arrests are going to happen, or something's going to happen and save us. And it doesn't work that way. We have to stand in our own truth, and we have to be courageous enough to speak out about it. And that means simply, as little as if you're watching something on the news that you don't agree with, voicing your opposition to that to your family members, and that's not going to be popular, but this is what standing in your truth means. And, as Danny said, what we all do, what Santos does and what Danny does and what I do, trying to bring information to people, we get attacked. But if we were just going to stop doing what we're going to do because somebody is attacking us, then we may as well give up today, and it's not going to happen. So people just need to understand, I see a lot of people that think that if they just think about love and they meditate on love and it's all about love, let's share some beautiful, lovely little quotes on Facebook to all my friends and we'll a bit, and somehow that's going to manifest on the physical plane. Well, unfortunately, it just does not work that way. We have to put momentum behind that love. We have to, put action behind that love, and that means standing up and not allowing ourselves to continue to be enslaved, breaking the chains, basically.
That's the other side of indoctrination that a lot of people who are trying to get away from one fall into that trap as well. Because you can't just you can't just say, okay, now all of a sudden I'm going to get out of the whole religion thing, and now I'm going to jump into the la-da-da-da-da, everything's just great. I can't be seen thinking something negative or anything like that, or paying attention to something that's going on in the world that's not positive, because that may lower my vibration. That's a myth too. The only way you get out of and make things better for humanity is to pay attention to everything. It's called balance, just like Mars and Saturn are necessary in our solar system to keep us from being lazy from Venus and Jupiter. We need to have some substance behind not just paying attention to the good vibrations, but soaking in everything in order to raise our consciousness. You can't just walk around and, Galactic Federation, la, 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 throwing daisies in the air. That just doesn't work that way.
It doesn't, I'm afraid. And once again, it comes back, and I hate to say this, but it does come back to a little bit of laziness, people just not wanting to do the work. And now is the time to do the work, people. It's now. Now's the time to step up. And, it's not easy to find information. You have to, spend time. I mean, look at all the research that Santos and Danny do. It takes a lot of time, but that's why they are so consciously expanded, because they put the effort in. And if everyone did that, just imagine the difference that we would start making. Because, I think that a lot of this New Age stuff is just hermetics and occult sciences and philosophies twisted. And, some guru has just put his own perception onto it, and then he's regurgitated it, and then, people gravitate to that, and they don't verify and they don't check sources. And, I know you do the same, Danny. Whenever we're researching, we come across something that's a little bit puzzling to us, we always take it back to the core. We always go back to hermetics. We always go back to those core understandings, so that we've got somewhere to come from.
If anybody hasn't read it yet, or if you'd like to listen to the audio with some visuals, I highly recommend, if you really kind of want to understand what kind of, how to control your thoughts, how to control your mind, and get a better understanding of the universe, go to my channel and find a playlist called The Kabbalion, which all teaches about hermetics. It goes all the way back to ancient Egypt, the teachings from Hermes Trismegistus. I highly recommend that, because it gives you a better understanding of things, and you'll understand that everything needs to be in balance. So you have to take in, the bad with the good. That's all part of love, is to understand that it all kind of goes together. It's all part of balance.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I will be linking everything that we're talking about in my Facebook group for Sirius Rising. So you will be able to find that in my Facebook group. And my channel is Thy Always Seek. So that's ThyAlwaysSSD. DEEK, I always seek. So I will have that underneath my videos when I upload this show. So anything else you guys are wanting to discuss? What else has been going on that we should actually, talk about and spend a bit of time on? What about this Mayan, 2012 movie, Danny, we were talking about the other night, and how suddenly...
Go ahead.
Do you want to go into that? What happened with that?
Oh,
we've been following this for a while.
I don't know if you heard the news, but some really interesting things developed. They were going to come out with this Mayan 2012 movie that everyone's been waiting for, to hear about a lot of these secrets that have been kept and so forth. Well, a very interesting thing happened. It was about a couple of weeks ago. The producer, for whatever reason, apparently stole all the hard drives and the computers and took off with them somewhere, and they can't find the person. And so now the movie can't come out. So whatever they were going to show us is not actually going to come out now. And then following that, the next day, or was it it was the day after the next day, it was National Geographic, which is also owned by News Corporation. And we all know who News Corporation is. That's the same people that are Fox News. National Geographic, the same people that put out when aliens attack, how aliens are going to attack us and everything. They decided that somebody had found something that says, oh yeah, this place we found, this old ancient site, says that 2012 isn't important anymore, and that nothing's going to happen for several hundred years. This was
on one
day after. And so I find it very interesting, because these people that don't pay attention, these are just ways to say, go back to sleep, don't pay attention, And this is a very significant year. If people have actually been paying attention closely, ever since last year, mid-last year, things have accelerated dramatically. And you can see it with all of the laws, the executive orders being passed. At the same time, people are waking up consciously. It's like a race. And so they do anything that they can to get people to go back to sleep. And I'm betting that there was probably something in there that was very enlightening that they were going to share with us that we'll never get to hear now.
Well, it's interesting, because I did a couple of videos on this, and apparently they had some pretty hardcore proof about alien interaction with the Mayans. So, I don't know if that has something to do with it, but I do know that they're trying to always put that fear factor around aliens. I mean, whenever we hear about aliens, we can't, ever imagine that they may be something positive. It's always got to be something negative, and it's got to be something to be feared. And
I know. That's all the Christians. It's always all aliens are demons. Every time I hear, all aliens are demons.
And actually, I did a video on this Mayan new glyph that they found. This one glyph that they found, and so everything else they've got to dismiss this now. All the elders that have come forward, and all of the other glyphs and the codex, that's all got to be ignored because of this one new glyph that they've found. But I had a few people commenting on the video, and they love it when they think they can, kind of get to you because you've made some kind of error. And they constantly bring up, the Gregorian calendar, the 21st of December. See, it's got nothing to do with that. And, these people need to understand it's got nothing to do with the date, the 21st of December 2012. It has got to do with the alignment. And actually, I saw something on your video last night where you went into this a little bit more, Santos. Would you like to explain a bit about the alignment that we will soon experience?
Yeah, well, when Aquarius comes, the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, it doesn't mean that just Aquarius is upon us. It also refers to the other three signs on the cardinal points. You see, there's always 4 cardinal points. There's the spring equinox and the vernal equinox, and there's the summer solstice and the winter solstice. Right. It's a cross, and it always goes around that wheel faithfully every 24,000 years, goes round and round, never stops. Now, so if the vernal equinox is in Aquarius, well, the autumnal equinox will be in Leo. And in fact, the Easterners say we're coming to the age of Leo, not Aquarius.
Right.
So take your pick. Take your pick of any one of the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. Scorpio, Taurus, Aquarius, and Leo. It's the cross of the fixed signs in the heavens that is coming. That's what the kingdom of heaven is all about. The fixed signs. We've been in mutable signs. Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, and Sagittarius. Duality, confusion, division. Duality is division. We've been in division for 2,000 years because the cardinal signs, the cardinal points have been going through them. But now we're coming to the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. And how do I know it's the kingdom of God? Well, easy. The Bible says that God has 4 faces in Revelation. The face of a bull, the face of a man, the face of a lion, and the face of an eagle. That's the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac.
That's why you always see Jesus. You always see Jesus in a vesica Pisces with those particular figures all around him.
I think that's even on the tarot cards as well, if I can remember correctly.
If you look at ancient art, if you look at old art in the cathedrals, always you see Jesus in the middle of a vesica Pisces, and you see the bull, the eagle, these things that Santos is saying, on all 4 corners of Jesus, and right inside the vesica Pisces.
Yep.
And when you go to Sydney, I think it's the Anglican, the Church of England Cathedral. It's not far from the QVB building, the Queen Victoria building. It's a famous building in the heart of Sydney. Just around the corner from there is this beautiful cathedral, and you will see on the front of it, you'll see the eagle, the man, the bull, and the lion. Wow. Even the churches are declaring that they're waiting for the kingdom of heaven, the fixed sign of the zodiac, to rule over us so that we can have some peace and love and consciousness. Even the churches, every church, you go to any cathedral, you'll see these 4 symbols. And it's dealing with what's now upon us, the cardinal points.
Yeah, so people should stop focusing on the actual date. That's okay.
Yeah, I got chopped off. The cardinal points are now in the fixed signs, and we will have fixability, no longer division and mutability.
Yeah. So people need to stop focusing on this date, the 21st of the 12th, 2012. It's not about the date. It's about the cosmic alignment. It's about the stars and the movement of the heavens. Because actually the Gregorian calendar was created to separate us from the cycles, wasn't it?
Pretty much. It was actually updated. It was actually updated from the Julian calendar, and the date that they updated, Pope Gregory updated the Julian calendar in 1582. Now, interesting that's about, I don't know, 60 or 70 years after they found all the Mayan calendars. You see, the conquistadors, they went down to South America and everything, and they destroyed the Mayans' temples and the Aztecs and the Incas and everything like that, and brought back the technology to Europe. That's where all the scientists in Europe that were under Pope Gregory revised the calendar, because they got it from the information that they stole off the Mayans. Right,
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, people just have to stop focusing on, dates and times, and just allow themselves to understand that it's all about cosmic shifts and things, as you said, that are beyond our control, whether we want to believe it or not. It really makes no difference. This happens. It has happened for millions of years, and it will happen again. It's all a cycle of, positive and negative polarity, rising and falling of civilizations, and we're about to come into a really beautiful time again on this planet. Well, that's what I believe anyway, and I think that is pretty much what you believe too, is it, Santos?
Oh, of course it is. The whole universe is a universe of love. Now, we've been in the part of the precessional cycle which has been the worst. We have been dealt a really severe blow in terms of peace and consciousness, and it's nobody's fault. It's not even, the Catholic Church's fault. It's nobody's fault. And everybody will benefit from what is coming eventually. If they miss out because they don't grasp the significance of what is coming and they stay unconscious, well, You know, we've done that before in other lifetimes. You know, we've missed out. You don't always get the goodies at this moment. They will eventually come to the light. It's not about condemning them, and you don't have to condemn them because each one condemns themselves. You know,
exactly.
If they choose to stay unconscious, well, they're condemning themselves. You see, the only thing I'm condemning is the fact that they are unconscious and think that they are conscious. You know, they are educated and they think they're enlightened. They are, believing in the fiction and believe that they are in reality and cause difficulties for the people who are conscious and liberated. You know, it's always been like that.
Yeah.
They've always persecuted the prophets.
There's something I kind of believe, though, about all of that, and that is that I believe consciousness expands kind of like a Fibonacci spiral. The more people that become conscious, the more accelerated the whole society will become conscious. And there actually is some truth to vibration and the way that it works that way. There is a study that was done by the military that actually still even use it. It's called Ultimate Defense Technology. If you haven't checked that out, look it up. There's a rule that it goes by, and it's called the square root of 1%. And what that basically means is that in order to change the views of a population or a controlled number of people, what you do, and in fact they've actually proven that the vibrations that you put out actually affect people in other rooms or say even your neighbors. We have a field that's actually around us, and this is proven, and they believe that, for example, there were, I believe, 1,000 yogis that got together, and when they meditated, they were actually able to affect the area and change the vibration of things. And the idea is that the square root of 1% of the population, which is roughly about 8,000 people, that if 8,000 people can change, then that will begin to make changes in the whole world. And I do believe that there is a lot of truth to that.
Yeah. Well, actually, Danny, there is another experiment that kind of also ties into what you're saying, and that's if you have a group of bells and you only ring one bell, all of the other bells will start ringing, even though they're not touching that other bell.
Yep.
So, definitely, I believe you. But you know what? I think that people now that think that they can go on some weekend retreat and all sit in a circle and meditate to make change, it's not enough. It's too disjointed because, people have got to understand that, yes, as you said, when 1,000 monks get together, and let's face it, monks are very spiritually connected and very consciously aware. So, when you get a group of people like that together, absolutely, the power can be manifest. But, when you're talking about a group of 10 people on a weekend retreat, I don't know if that really is going to somehow stop.
True. It's just one parameter in all of the things that you have to do in order to change things. You can't just pull one lever. In stock technical analysis, for example, for these left brain people that are out there, if you want to predict how stock is going to go in a situation where it's not actually controlled by corporations, what you do is you have to use many different parameters to determine which way the stock is going to go, whether it's going to go up or whether it's going to go down. So meditating, if you want to use that as an analogy, would be a one parameter of all the things that you need to do. I mean, that's great, but you also have to do other things as well. And with a combination of all those and the correct balance of your right and left brain, I mean, if you only live in your right brain, the problem with that is that you never come back to our reality where you can actually communicate with people on a certain level. But if you live totally left brain, then obviously you're only going by your past experiences and you're not allowing your consciousness to expand. So the proper way would be to allow your left brain to allow your right brain to function, and they got to meet in the middle. And with a proper balance, that's how we expand our consciousness. And that, I think, is the real key. You've got to get these people out of this whole left brain only mode and allow them to use both sides of their head. And this is what I mean. Everything so far. Anytime you want to see somebody jumping outside of the left brain box, there's a medical diagnosis or condition for it, or you're crazy, or that's just completely illogical. There's no way you can prove that by the scientific method, and these things like that. And that's what's held us back for so long.
Yeah, and don't we get a lot of those comments on our videos? Always, need proof, solid, scientific, and it's always in the parameters of flat Earth science is what I like to call it, because a lot of these scientists all peer review their own theories and theses. So anything that's a little bit out, of their kind of constrained perception, they won't allow, and I've heard many stories of, archaeologists finding very unusual things and then trying to bring them out and having their whole careers ruined. And basically, they cannot be taken seriously by these other scientists and archaeologists. So people need to understand that that's part of the agenda. The NASA and all of these agencies and these archaeologists, this is where they get their money from. All of these researchers that go out, the Egyptologists, they're all got their hands in the pockets of the power elite. That's where they get their grants from to do their excavations. So they're not exactly going to come out and tell us information that goes against what, the power elite want us to know.
That's the reason why they say that the pyramids are still less than 6,000 years old and everything else, because they can't go against what the church has taught, that the Earth's only 6,000 years old and stuff like that. And I can't see all this stuff being held back as far as free energy and stuff like that goes, because we can't have that, because if somebody actually comes out with a technology that means we don't have to use the energy companies anymore, well, heaven forbid, that can't happen, so we can't allow these technologies to come out. And then all of the politicians are bought, and everybody's bought. It always comes back to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I still can't believe that if you were at school right now and you were learning about Egypt, they would still be telling you that they have moved those huge blocks with ropes and logs. And even though it's been proven time and again that they would have to move one every 2 minutes to build the Giza pyramid within 30 years, they would have to move one of those blocks every 2 minutes. So, and there's even been actual engineers that have come out and said, we couldn't do that now, not even with the equipment that we have could we build the pyramid the way that it was built. But for some reason, people just do not question. They just continue to say, oh, well, yeah, okay, if they say that that's how it is, well, then that's how it is. So, people have to start...
If you look up pyramidology online and you go to Wikipedia is a great place to go because you can really see the lies when they come out, but you can also get some truth there as well. It's just one source of information, and just like with any information out there, and this is where research becomes valuable, like you were saying earlier, that information is hard to come by. It's not that information is hard to come by. You can get information about anything out there. It's just, can you get the correct information? And the only way you can really do that is to bounce whatever it is that you have off of everything else, and that includes the Bible versus other things. It includes archaeology versus everything. And you go out to pyramidology, which is how they talk about the pyramids and how they were designed and everything else, and they call it a pseudoscience, which basically means it's false science because it doesn't go by the scientific method. When you start really digging into what these guys classify things as, you can really start to see the lies, just like how they lie about pareidolia and that people can't actually see things like these ancients did in order to tell them things that maybe be communicating from, in some higher dimension or something like that. They want you to stay away from that because, and what I've proven recently, for example, is that, for example, if I see an image of something in the cosmos, now we know that I've shown you so far that the Orion Nebula, for example, there's no way in the world that in the 1500s that should have been in any kind of a cathedral, but yet I've shown you in 4 or 5 different cathedrals now that very highly detailed images of the infrared version of the Orion Nebula in these cathedrals. The reason why that it's so hard for people to take that in is because, first of all, they go, well, infrared? There's no way. Second of all, there's no way they could have seen it that way back then, and so everything's based on time, and so they think, well, it must have been something supernatural, and that can't possibly exist. So that's how it's very, very hard. This kind of stuff that I've been bringing to the table is very, very hard, but yet I can show you. It's the exact same thing, especially in the in the St. Charles Church, but they want to tell you it's pareidolia, that you're just seeing things. But when you take a look at the way that they performed the tests on that, there was no test to determine what is meaningful versus meaningless data. And so, therefore, the test is biased, and therefore it didn't follow the scientific method, and therefore it's unproven. So people have got to learn to really check this stuff out and don't listen to these mainstream quacks. It's the same reason why a lot of these kids out there, they're on psychological drugs and they're completely sick and they go nuts if they come off of them because they taught them that everything can be treated with some drug. And they're just trying to numb people's minds to higher consciousness. Yeah,
that's right. Those poor kids out there. And I mean, we both grew up as, teenagers in the 80s, and I don't think I remember one of my friends being on these drugs. And now you have lines out the front of, the school tuck shop with them, giving them out to these children every lunchtime, all getting their drugs. And a lot of these children now are going on to have, psychological problems and drug addiction. And it's because, as you said, these kids are just being kids and expanding themselves consciously, but they don't want that. They've got to be dumbed down. And any child that, answers, that doesn't fit within that box, that's asking too many questions or displaying, too much individuality, and we can't have that, can we? Well, suddenly, they've got ADHD and they need to be drugged and zombified. People need to stop trusting the medical institutions just so easily with their children. You need to ask yourself your own.
They have to understand it's a business, just like everything. Okay, why would the medical industry ever come out? Why would they ever come out? I mean, think about this like a business person. Okay, why would you, as the medical industry, ever come out with a drug that cured cancer?
You wouldn't.
As soon as you did that, you would lose all of the money and all your profits on all of your cancer drugs and everything else because you've cured cancer. But people can't. People. I mean, this is a logical left brain question, and people cannot. They just trust them. I just don't get it. It's like they pick and choose what they want to be logical about. But if you are a business person, you understand that they're never going to create a drug to cure anything. They want to keep you as a patient for the rest of your life so they can suck all the money out of you.
Look, if they really were so concerned about curing us from all these diseases, they wouldn't give us the shit they give us in the first place. They'd outlaw McDonald's to start with because that, is just total crap. You know what I mean? They wouldn't allow us to be drinking Diet Coke with, aspartame and all of these, this horrible, disgusting, these chemicals that are basically killing people. Once again, it's an industry, and they want people to be sick. They want to prolong illness because, as you said, the pharmaceutical companies are making money, the researchers are making money, and the doctors, they get trips to bloody Hawaii and, all over the place, for dispensing these drugs as well, So it's a big business, and people need to start remembering, like just what Santos read at the beginning of the show about intuition. If it doesn't feel right, go with your gut instinct. It's there for a reason. It was given to you for that very reason so that you can discern for yourself what is good and what is, not so good for you, not to look to somebody else to tell you. Because as soon as you do that, you're handing over your power. You're giving someone else your power and saying, here, you know better for me than I do. And quite frankly, I know what's better for me than anybody, anybody. I'll always go back to my own truth, and I'll balance everything against what I instinctively believe. And even if that doesn't, agree with what others say, I mean, me and you, Danny, we don't agree on everything, the core of what we believe is pretty much the same. But, you're always going to, have your different, perspectives and understandings, but you just need to trust in yourself. People need to take that power back and start trusting in themselves. But you know what I'm going to do, guys? I'm going to invite people to call in. We're in the last hour of the show now, so if anyone wants to call in about any of the topics that we have been discussing, please feel free to.
And that includes any of the Saturn people, like
the Saturn Club,
like occult science 101 Billy, or regarding the one. Or one of the ones, or revolutions, or any of you guys in your gang, if you want to call in, if you have any questions about the whole Saturn thing, please, this is your chance to do it.
That's right. This is your chance to put forward your side of the debate. Let's keep this, civil, and let's discuss this like adults without resorting to attacks. And we are interested to hear what you have to bring forward, and we have Danny and Santos here to clarify and give you any information that you require. Okay, it looks like we have a caller here. Caller 361 area code.
Hi, Dee, is that you?
Hello, how are you going? Who have I got?
Oh, we're doing fine. I'm Scott. I'm calling from Tennessee.
Hi, Scott. And have you got a question, or is there just a comment you would like to make?
Yeah, I do have a question. First of all, I guess it was wonderful to hear all of you speak, and I wish we had Bill Donahue in there as well. But maybe next time.
Yeah, maybe next time. I'll have to line him up for next time.
But I did have a question, especially for Santos, and it's with regards to trying to get deeper into the occult and things that he's been talking about. And I completely agree that, if we sit on our ass and try to wait for a savior, nothing's going to happen. But I also think at the same time, if we sit on our ass and wait for the universe to shift our consciousness, that we're kind of not being an active participant. And to kind of follow on to that, Santos mentioned something in one of his lectures, and I think I've seen everything that you, Dee, have written. Especially, I loved your stuff on Burgoyne books. Those were great. Yep. And all of Danny's stuff. Danny's stuff is wonderful, and Santos' stuff is great as well. But the question I had specifically was that he brought up something in one of his YouTube videos with regards to meditation and the cyclic nature of meditating when the moon is in your star sign. And I'm a pure academic. I'm actually a PhD student, so very familiar with Crowley's books, with Burgoyne's books, and people like that. But I'd never heard anything like that quoted. I'd never read that anywhere. So I was wondering if Santos could kind of expound on what he was talking about in that one lecture with regards to the good versus bad, meditating during a waxing moon. Waiting for the seed to rise, up through the Kundalini, etc. And just wondered if he could let us have some more information on where he got that from, and what we should do with that kind of, the information.
Okay, Santos, take it away.
Yeah, thanks. And great question, because I'm getting bombarded by people on Facebook, email, asking the same question, and I have to answer it. I've now got a little letter that I just copy and paste to answer that question, because I'm afraid, to be honest, I didn't do it justice. I really didn't elaborate on that, and for that reason, I'm going to do another presentation in June on this very subject, and it will be entitled The Secret of Secrets, The Elixir of Life, hiding in the Bible, and of course in your body. And I'm going to explain these things a lot more at length, because I really sort of created a little bit of confusion by not really elaborating. Those points are very, very important. This is how George Carey, in his book God-Man, colon, The Word Made Flesh. Now, it's quite old, but you can get it on Amazon for about $20. It's a great book, and this is the only place where I've ever learned this particular detail, that every month when the moon transits your sun sign. Now, I was born on March the 24th, so I'm Arian. So Aries is my sun sign. Now, every month, every 29 and a half days, the moon will transit that sign, and it takes 2.5 days exactly to go through that sign. In that period, there is a psychophysical germ, a seed, planted in the plexus called the solar plexus, just above the sacral plexus. Now, for those listeners who don't know what a plexus is, we call them chakras, ganglions. Now, there are 7 of these along the cerebrospinal system. 7 of them. And 2 of them are in the cranium, the pineal gland and the pituitary gland. And then you have the throat chakra, or the thyroid. Then you have the thymus in the heart. And then you have the solar plexus, which is the 5th one. Then the sacral plexus, connected to the sacrum, and on the spinal column. And then you've got the bottom one, which is called the base chakra. And now, so fluid that comes from the brain travels down the 2 nerves called the Ida and the Pingala. One is electric, one is magnetic, and this fluid flows all the way down to the generative area, and this area is called the sacred plexus. Now every month, when the moon transits your sun sign, this seed from that fluid is born in the solar plexus, just above the sacred plexus. Now, George Carey, in his book, explains that this is the time for one to abstain from anger, alcohol, overeating, any kind of sex, even the thought of it, because the seed is very tender and it has a coating around it, and that coating will protect it. But if we consume too much alcohol, it will destroy the coating, and therefore the seed will perish. And we have to wait the next month for a new seed to be planted in this beautiful womb that both male and female, man and woman have, as opposed to just the physical womb that a woman has that she can impart life to her children. So men and women can both participate in this, and if that seed is looked after in that particular time, it will actually raise. It will rise up the spine, and as it rises up the spine, the fluid returns back to where it came. And what it does is it increases in potency as it goes up and up and up. And eventually, when it hits the medulla oblongata at the end of the spinal cord, just below the midbrain, the oil crosses the crossing in the skull, which is called Golgotha, where the Christos, this particular seed, crosses the 2 nerves of the vagus nerve, or what's called the pneumogastric nerve. Once it crosses there, it's crucified. And crucifixion means to increase in potency 1,000-fold. After that, after 3 days of inactivity, the pineal gland is activated, and the oil hits the optic thalamus, and all the dormant brain cells are reactivated, and you have illumination, you have christening, you have the higher consciousness activated, etc. Now, George Carey, I believe, is a little bit rigid with sex. He believes that total abstinence is necessary for this process, whereas Thomas H. Burgoyne and other great occult scientists teach that to be celibate and abstain from sex totally can be harmful. So there's got to be a balance, and there's got to be a conscious effort to raise that oil, the Christ. So I would suggest, now I'm not giving advice here because I'm just a researcher and I'm learning this stuff myself, but first of all I'd get this book, and I'd also get The Light of Egypt by Thomas H. Burgoyne to balance out this information and to strike a medium, a balance where you can practice this science yourself. But I would suggest that one practices sex where you don't always have to culminate and consume that practice with an orgasm. Now, in tantric sex, they teach that if you avoid the orgasm and go beyond it, if you go beyond that little, 5-second reward or whatever it is, I don't know, I mean, it might be 10 seconds, it's just blissful. But if you can go beyond it and resist it and just and not pay attention to it, you will find that the tantric sex folks teach that you have an air orgasm or a spirit orgasm. It's an internal spiritual type rather than the physical type, because you see, sex is not just about physical lust. It's also a spiritual and psychological and emotional experience, of course. It's practiced on many levels. I mean, you can have, animalistic sex, which they call, in Australia we call those naughties or quickies, Homer Simpson, he takes Marge to the car for 10, what was it? I think he was boasting that he was going to be with Marge for 5 minutes, and then he was going to go back to work because she paid a visit on the lunch break, and she wanted to be romantic with him, so he boasted that he would be there for 5 minutes, If
I go for a long time without doing anything or reaching an orgasm, we're talking major pain in about 30 minutes after that.
Well, I don't.
Lie back and think of England, isn't it?
we call that in America. We call that blue balls.
Yeah, we call that blue balls here too, Danny.
Yeah, but anyway, that's just my suggestion. I would. There's a great DVD for the caller. Sorry, what was the caller's name? What was your name?
Scott.
Scott. Yeah. Sorry, Scott. I forgot your name. Scott, there's a great DVD called Sex: The Secret Garden to Eden. That has a lot of great information. Between the three of those products, I would get an answer. But certainly, during that 2.5 day period, one needs to abstain from all sorts of, lustful practices and probably meditate and be as good as possible.
Okay. Well, I hope that's answered your question there, Scott. So thanks for calling in. You're my very first caller on my very first show. So there you go.
Well, thanks for having me. I hope you guys do this again sometime soon.
No worries. Thanks, Scott.
Have a nice night.
Okay, it doesn't look like we've got any other callers, so I suppose we can perhaps discuss something else, or we can go forward with what you were talking about there, Santos, in relation to perhaps some of the behaviours we should do, during certain aspects of, our sign, What do you think perhaps the transit of Venus might mean for us?
Well, it's very rare for a start. I think this is the 6th or 7th transit of its kind in the last 400 or 500 years since we've discovered the telescope. So it's very, very rare. But on the 21st of May, we had the annular eclipse, and annular comes from the word ring. The ring you put on your finger when you get married type ring. So, because of the moon's position in its elliptical orbit, it was not able to fully cover the sun. Therefore, you could see a ring of fire around the moon, you see. Now, that has to do with an alchemical marriage of the sun and the moon in the heavens. And this occurs when, in the new moon period, when the sun and the moon conjunct. A conjunction is related to the word conjugate, conjugal. You know what conjugal relationships are all about, don't you? That's marriage and sex.
Yep.
And yeah. So this conjugation means that in the heavens there is a marriage, and the marriage is of the father and the mother the sun and the moon. Now, when you read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, or Hermes, the first thing it says is the sun is its father and the moon is its mother.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, what it means is that the sun is our spiritual father and the moon is our physical mother. And this is a fact. This is a scientific fact. Easily explainable. I won't do that right now, but the annular eclipse was basically this alchemical marriage in the heavens. Now, the Emerald Tablets of Hermes are dealing with this science of the oil called the Christ within. The sun is the father of this oil, and the moon is the mother of this oil, because where the seed is born in the solar plexus, as I explained before to Scott, the solar plexus is not just the solar plexus, it's also the lunar plexus. It's the sun and the moon. And they are the mother and the father of the child. In the scriptures, the solar plexus is called Bethlehem. Beth means house, and Lehem means bread, because it's in the stomach, the house of bread, Virgo. Virgo is in the stomach. When you understand your astrology, you'll realize that Aries is in the head, and Pisces is in the feet, and Virgo is the stomach, and Virgo is the house of bread. That's when you do the harvest in September. So now I'm saying all this to say this, that Venus, virtually 2 weeks after this powerful annular eclipse, she is also very related to the sun. And she's also considered to be a bride of the sun. She's feminine. She's Aphrodite. She is loving. She is motherly. And right now she's going back to, she's retrograding. That's why we're having this transit. She's retrograding. So she was at about 20 degrees Gemini a couple of weeks ago. Now she's going back to about 16 degrees Gemini to meet the sun. And so, she's going to retrograde about 4 or 5 degrees in the skies. And these two in combination in such a short period of time is very, very powerful. They both have to do with masculine and feminine energies coming together, spirit and matter, to activate the higher consciousness. Okay. The higher consciousness is here. It's upon us. The kingdom of heaven is now within our midst. Jesus said it 2,000 years ago. He said, "The kingdom of the heavens is in you. The kingdom of heaven is in you. It is here." He said, "Do not be looking to the east."
Didn't he also say he was the bright morning star as well?
That's right. And the bright morning star is none other than Venus.
Right. And I believe the Mayans, what the Mayans are saying is that the Venus transit represents the return of Quetzalcoatl, which is the spirit energy, the love energy, which is basically, I believe, their version of that Christ energy. What I find interesting scientifically about all this as well is that I've listened to some other researchers talk about how when Venus is transiting the sun in front of us, that it's all of these cosmic rays coming through Venus, and then it's almost like it's that energy that's coming from the sun through Venus and reaching us that basically represents that energy touching us here on Earth. Mm.
Yeah. Well, when you go to Revelation chapter 1, you will see that Venus is Jesus. It's pretty easy to understand when you have the keys. Oh, those are the keys that the scribes and the Pharisees, which Jesus condemned when he said, "You have thrown away the keys of knowledge, and you do not let these little ones that you hinder to go into the kingdom of heaven, as you yourselves do not go into the kingdom of heaven. It would be better for you to tie a millstone around your neck and cast yourselves into the sea than for you to stumble one of these little children." The key is quite simple. When you read Revelation chapter 1, you read about St. John. He sees a vision. He says, "Wow," he says, "I looked around and I saw God, And this is how he described him. In verse 13 of Revelation chapter 1, I encourage everybody to open their Bibles, and read this. 13, it proves that Venus is Jesus, Phosphorus, the bright morning star. It says, "And in the midst of the lampstand, someone like the Son of Man," that's Jesus, "clothed with a garment that reached down to the feet, and girded at the breasts." Now, this is the Jehovah's Witness New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures, by the way, guys. And here it is in plain sight, in plain language. It says, "And girded at the breast with a golden girdle." That's none other than Venus, Aphrodite. Aphrodite's belt. And the allusion to the breasts, why would Jesus have a belt around his paps, around his little boobies? Well, it's the Son of Man with Aphrodite's belt around his breasts. Very, very interesting language. It's Venus. And then it goes on to explain all the other, and then it goes on to describe all the other 7 planets in the solar system. It's quite interesting. Read Revelation chapter 1 and from verse 13 and you'll see. And then he goes on to say, "Moreover, his head and his hair were white as the white wool." That's Saturn.
His eyes were like flames, and his feet were like
and
brass.
fiery eyes. Well, fiery is Mars. Just have a look at Mars tonight in Leo. When you go out, have a look at Mars, right in the middle of the constellation of Leo, right near Regulus, and you'll see that it's red. There's only 4 red objects in the sky: Aldebaran, Antares, Arcturus, and Betelgeuse. And Mars, the planet, is the 5th object. And that's what it's talking about when it says that this God vision that he sees, the Son of Man, and he says, and his hair was white as snow. Of course, Saturn is the old man Kronos. Yeah. And he's got white hair. He's always old and skinny, and he's always got a scythe in his hand. He's the Grim Reaper, you see. And then the eyes as fiery flame, that's Mars. And his feet were like fine copper. That's Mercury, when glowing in a furnace. And his voice was as the sound of many waters. That's... Excuse me. That's Jupiter. And he had in his right hand 7 stars, etc. He's just described the moon and Saturn and Jupiter and all the 7 orbs in the solar system.
Now,
there you go.
What's really interesting, there also seems to be... there's a correlation between some things that I've seen drawn in ancient Egypt, where they show the Son of Man being Osiris, which is actually Orion, and holding the 7 stars in his hand is him reaching out with the 7 stars being Pleiades in the palm of his hand. I've seen that as well. But then we also have Revelations 22:16, where it says, "I, Jesus, have sent my angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David and the bright morning star."
Yeah, fantastic. And what about Amos? Let me get that one. This will be good for the listeners, especially for the naysayers and the so-called, I don't like to use the word, but a lot of people call them the haters. But anyway, what about this scripture, Amos 5:8, in the King James Version?
I know that one.
I know you know this one, because you mentioned the 7 stars. Seek him that maketh the 7 stars and Orion, or some versions say the 7 stars of Orion, because there are 7 stars, and they are Rigel, Saiph, Betelgeuse, Bellatrix, Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka. And Orion is a deacon of Taurus. Taurus is in the head, along with Aries, and Orion is the light of the world, the Lamb of God, and in the physiology, that's the optic thalamus, including the pineal gland and the pituitary gland.
And if you think about it scientifically, what would make stars? A star nebula. So when you think about seeking him make the 7 stars of Orion, well, you can clearly see a Fibonacci spiral emanating from the Orion Nebula, spreading out all over of the stars of Orion. And so that being the closest star nebula to those stars, it's pretty easy to understand that that's probably where those stars came from, since that star nebula has thousands of stars.
Yeah, and Danny, I'm happy to announce to you and to the listeners that tomorrow night, I will upload a new presentation that I've done. I did it back in March, called the 2012 Galactic Alignment, where I spend at least 10 to 20 minutes on your website, Starscream 233, and I show the Orion Nebula, and I show how it corresponds to the optic thalamus and all of the beautiful things that are in the kingdom of heaven, which is the cranium. And I show a lot of your work, and I'm very, very excited about this video finally being uploaded. I've had a lot of trouble with it, but it's going to go up, and it's going to explain all of the things that I've been explaining with you guys today about the galactic alignment and everything like that.
Wow, look forward to it.
Yeah.
Look forward to it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'll be sure to post that in the Sirius Rising Facebook group for you as well, Santos.
Yeah, great.
I just have to thank you for making so much information available to everybody, because it really does help people to, join the dots, so to speak. So you've done a lot of legwork for us, Santos. So I have to thank you that. I have to thank you for that.
Sure have.
Yeah, well, look, it's my pleasure and my honor. I want all of us, the whole world, churchgoers and non-churchgoers alike, elites and non-elites, Illuminati and non-Illuminati, Masons and Islamists and Jews and everybody, to just get together now as a brotherhood and a family, and let's just have fun on this planet. We're just flying through space on a planet. The sun has given birth to us, and the moon, and here we are. We've incarnated. We only get 70 or 80 years in one incarnation because we've lost the holy science of the Christ within, due to the churchgoers stuffing it up for us. It's time for them to repent and forget about teaching that the Jehovah's Witnesses Jesus is the one that's going to save us, or the Baptist Northern Lakes Regions 1928 franchises Jesus is going to save us, or the Pentecostal speaking in tongues version of Jesus, or Benny Hinn's, or all those buffoons. We can all just get along as a family. Christ Jesus belongs to all of us because Christ Jesus is within. Our body is the temple of Solomon. We are divine. We are holy children of light. We are the ones that we're waiting for.
Amon-Ra.
Yeah. Yeah, and to prove that that Solomon's temple. Sorry, I've got a sore throat. I had a sore throat yesterday, and I had to cancel the show. I was very, very cold the day before in the city in Melbourne, doing my street performances, and it got to me. Oh boy! Overnight, I didn't get much sleep and woke up with a real nasty sore throat. But there's a little organ, I think it's an organ or a gland or whatever, called Ammon's horn in the middle of our heads. Ammon's horn, that's Solomon's horn. That's Solomon's temple.
Okay.
There it is.
I've seen a very interesting correlation. The ancient Egyptians, when they drew the Eye of Ra, when you take a look at the inside of the brain, and you compare the fornix area, the thalamus, and that area of the brain, you can see that it mimics the Eye of Ra that they draw very, very closely. And if you take a look at the brain, if you were to do a cross section between the front half and the rear, you see that what the thalamus, the way that it sits on top of the, I don't know exactly what the thalamus sits on top of, but I believe it's that bone that sits right underneath in there. It looks just like the Ark of the Covenant. And I believe that, I don't know if you've seen a picture of that, Santos, but it looks just like the Ark of the Covenant. And what I've also noticed is that, and this is what a lot of people mistake out there when they see Yahweh, the Tetragrammaton, in these churches. From my research and what I've seen so far, you look at on all this old art, Yahweh represents that consciousness that we're trying to reach. And so what you normally see is you will see Yahweh sitting in the middle between the two angels that are on top of the Ark of the Covenant. And what that represents to me is the very center part of the brain. And I believe this is what Yahweh is all about. It's not some Draco Lord like Revolution said that's going to come and get us, that's a reptilian from Orion. What Yahweh actually represents is consciousness, that Christ consciousness that we're trying to reach.
Yeah, Danny, you're spot on. The Ark of the Covenant is, in fact, the optic thalamus. And the two cherubs that touch at the wingtips on top of the Ark of the Covenant and cover over the Ark of the Covenant. You see, God instructed Moses clearly. He said they must cover the Ark. Well, they are the two hemispheres of the cerebrum, because cherubim comes from cerebrum. Ceres, also the goddess, Ceres comes from cerebrum, just like cherubim does. And if you take a look at the two wings of the hemispheres of the brain, the left and the right brain, you'll see that they're hollowed out and they have feathery convolutions on them. These are the wings of the cherubim. They are covering over the optic thalamus, and they sit there forever protecting it, the Ark of the Covenant, and the manna is within, and the two tablets of the law of God. They would be the two hemispheres of the brain, basically. They would be everything.
It's amazing what you can figure out, like what you have figured out on your side with language and the research that you've done, and when we combine that and confirm it with the pictures that the ancients clearly show us, all this kind of stuff together just reconfirms everything. And I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm glad to know that I'm kind of on spot with that. That's great. Awesome.
Oh yeah, it's spot on. The reason why the Orion Nebula is so important is because in our heads we are creators. Because in our heads we think and we speak. And they are the two of the Trinity of the process of creation. Because creation gets done by means of thought, speech, and action. So in the head, as George Carey says in this beautiful book, God-Man, he says, those two tribes, the tribes of Israel called Gad and Asher, the two lost tribes of Israel, because they're in the head. They're not part of the torso. They're separated from the torso. And yet those two tribes dictate to the 10 below. They give orders. Gad and Asher, Aries and Taurus, they rule the body, because the thinking gets done up there and the speaking in the mouth. The mouth is Taurus and the thinking is Aries. Now, Gad is another word for God. That's where God comes from. It comes from the tribe of Gad. And Gad is Aries at the very, very top of the cranium, and it relates to the cerebrum. And so here is the greatest of the star-making nebula in Orion. Orion produces so many stars, they come from there, according to the Mayans and everything. So it's a creative, generative system. The other powerful creative system and generative system that is in the body is down at the genitalia, at the generative, where the womb is of the woman, and where the the testes of the man is, because the man provides the sperm, which is the seed that comes from the cerebrum. It actually comes from the cerebrum.
And there's no man that has a sword hanging down between his legs. That's not a sword in Orion. That is a phallus.
That is the phallus. So it's what it's doing is it's saying that the creative regions in the sky are to be found in Taurus and Orion. Of course, they're both in the same area. And then down, way down the spine, you go way down to the sacrum, and it's called sacrum for a reason, because you will find a lot of sacred stars down there, Sagittarius and Scorpio, and in between Sagittarius and Scorpio, the stinger of Scorpio's tail and the arrow of Sagittarius's bow they are pointing to the center of the Milky Way galaxy, and that is the other creative region where also stars are produced, and it corresponds to the womb in the woman and the generative area of the man.
Wow.
Excellent.
Yeah, and in between, and Ophiuchus is one of the deacons of Scorpio. Scorpio is the phallic. Scorpio is the generative area, and right next to him is Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer, right at the bottom of the spine, of the spinal cord. Now, what would the serpent bearer, the carrier of serpents, be doing at the bottom of the spinal cord? Well, hello, that's where the Kundalini and the Kundabhafa begin their journey electrically and magnetically up the spine to return the seed. So Ophiuchus is bringing the serpent upward, up the spine to his brother Orion, who is waiting at the optic thalamus, who is the optic thalamus. He returns the oil, and Joseph and Mary, the Virgin Mother and the godly father of Jesus Christ, who is born in Bethlehem, the solar plexus, Joseph being the pineal gland, and Mary, the Virgin, being the pituitary body, they rejoice because they were the ones that sent down the fluid in the first place. Because when the fluid is produced in the claustrum, the Santa Claustrum, at the top of the chimney, the first thing it does is it stops at the pineal gland and the pituitary gland, and it gets differentiated into an electrical and a magnetic fluid, and it travels all the way down to the sacrum. It goes all the way down, and then when it's planted in the solar plexus and we give it a chance to breathe and go up, because we abstain from all those lustful vices, and we meditate and breathe properly and raise the soul, raise the Christ within, it travels up the tree of life. The tree of life is the beautiful vagus nerve, or the pneumogastric nerve. It feeds the liver, the kidneys, the spleen, the lungs, the stomach, and it's the nervous system that is vagrant, or it wanders through the body. That's why it's called the vagus nerve, because it's vagrant. It goes everywhere. It goes to the spleen, it goes to the kidneys, it goes to the bladder, it goes everywhere, looking after and nourishing the body. And the oil is inside those nerves, the vagus nerve. And the oil is desiring to go ever upward, back to Orion, so that Orion can have his supernova. And guess what? Betelgeuse, the red star in Orion, the shoulder of Orion, is just about to go supernova. And it will. And it will.
I wonder if
and
it
when
already
it does,
went supernova, because some things that it may already have, but the light just hasn't gotten here yet.
Well, yeah, I think, and which I don't like to share my opinions, but I've seen it enough on the internet. I've seen it said enough that it has already gone supernova. We just haven't seen the light from it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. But I guess there's not really a way to know until it happens.
Yeah.
And do you think that this light from the supernova is something that we can benefit from?
Oh, that's going to be activation of our higher consciousness, no doubt. Many of our brothers on the earth at this time will experience the full illumination of the higher consciousness, which we were designed to do. We were not designed to be manipulated little churchgoers that go out and fight for Jesus and kill Islamists and kill Jews and kill dark people and Indians and put them on reservation camps. And we were not meant to be doing all this killing. We're not supposed to be in Iraq and Libya. and weren't supposed to go to Korea and Vietnam and Chile and Argentina and devastate those countries and deprive them of their natural resources and connect them up to the World Bank so that they would be enslaved in debt forever. This is a joke. Come on, it's a nightmare. We are better than this, and we will be, and we will do it. We're gonna win.
Oh, we will. It's written in the stars.
I do think that Bill actually goes, Bill Donahue, and I would have to agree with him. And from some of the images that I've seen so far, that this light, from whether they're supernovas or whether they're alignments, this is the God light that I believe communicates to us and brings us to, and assists to bring us to that higher consciousness. But I also believe that we have to be ready for it personally, in the sense that, you can't force somebody to change their consciousness. Just like I tell the people that believe that the Galactic Federation can take them to inner Earth and flip a light switch on the Ascension light chamber. That's not going to work either. That's not going to make you fully conscious. You have to be able to be in that state of mind, I believe, in order to accept that light energy that comes from these places.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can see that now. We can see that people are expanding consciously now, and we can see that people aren't. And the ones that normally aren't are the ones that are very closed to all of this, and are just consuming the circuses, and their attention is elsewhere. So I think you're absolutely right, Danny. I think if we're not consciously aware of this expansion and we're not open to it, then we're not going to benefit from it. And it's really unfortunate because, just like you said, Santos, I would like to see everybody benefiting, like we are, and expanding like we are. I mean, a lot of people say to me, thank you for all your research, thank you for, the work that you do, and I'm sure you both receive the same acknowledgement. But, personally for me, this is something that I love to do. I don't see it as work. I don't see it as hard. It's something that, I really love. It's part of who I am. So I think that's what we're going to tap into.
That's the difference between somebody who is good at it, just like Santos learned these languages in 3 months. It's because he loved doing what he was doing. And because anytime you love what you do, you basically excel at it. These people that do things because they have to, they're not as good at it. The people who love to do what they do, like I love to do the research as well, just like you do as well, Dee, and so do you, Santos, and it shows. That's just the nature.
Yeah, I mean, I just wish that's what I always try and inspire everybody out there to get that feeling, because there is nothing better than researching and connecting the dots and finding the information. I mean, Danny and I spend a lot of time, comparing notes, and when we hit on something and we start connecting the dots, there really is nothing like that feeling of starting to figure everything out. So, I mean, if I could, share that feeling with others, that would be something that I would really love to do, have everyone experience that, discovery. That's what it really is. It's discovering new frontiers almost, and uncovering the truth. It's really exciting. So, I really always encourage people to get out there and research and find the information, because it's there. They're not that good. They're really not that good. They can't hide it that well. They've hidden it from us, but now that we know that they've hidden it from us, we can start looking for it, and that's pretty much what we're doing. It's there.
Yep, I agree.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, I really like your perspective too, Santos, because I suppose you've seen both sides of the coin. When it comes to, the religious side of things, you're talking from a place of experience. For listeners that don't know, Santos used to be heavily involved with the church, and so I suppose that allows you to have a really excellent perspective coming from both sides of sides of the subject matter.
It's great.
What was it that snapped in you, Santos, that snapped you out of it? Is there anything in particular, or an event, anything that snapped you out of all that?
Well, not really, but I was using my intuition and thinking abilities, and I just saw paradoxes and the murky waters of confusion that the churches are all, they're all peddling, confusion. None of them have the answers. It's a divided kingdom. Christendom is a divided kingdom. There's 30,000 denominations that are registered. That depends on which source you get for your information. Some say there's about 10,000. Some say 20. But I've seen many times that there's 30,000. Now, when you look at Islam, there's basically just two sects. There's the Sunnis and the Sufis, right? Is that right? No, not the Sufis, the Sunnis and the Shiites. Now,
yes, Sunnis and Shiites, yeah.
Yeah. The Jews, well, there's Hasidic Jews, there's Sephardic Jews, there's, Kabbalist Jews and everything like that. It's not so divided. When you come to Christendom, all of a sudden you've got this confusion. Where do you go for the truth? My God, do you have to spend 3 hours studying with the Jehovah's Witnesses before you realise that they haven't got it, and then you go to the Baptists, and then you go to the Protestants and the Methodists and the Presbyterians and Church of England, the Orthodox, the Russian Orthodox. Oh my God! And they've all got the truth, and they are all the only true way, and their adherents can only donate to their church and never go to the local other church on the other corner of the block on a Sunday. If they're caught in there, they'll be condemned and banished from their church. Have they got the answers? Absolutely not. They're a confused, befuddled, dyslexic bunch of brainwashed, mind-controlled people. That's what they are. And the monarchies have done this. Yeah. The Rothschilds have done this. The powers that be, the elites, the so-called elites, they have done this. They put millions and millions and millions of dollars into these churches. The Jehovah's Witnesses were getting money from B'nai B'rith. That's a fact. That's absolutely a fact. I've got a book here called Occult Theocracy by Edith Starr Miller. Great book, Edith Starr Miller. And she exposes all of these organisations that are getting money. This was in the 30s, and this is what she had to say about the Jehovah's Witnesses. At the end of her, just 2 pages on the Russellites, she called them, founded in 1879. At the end, she said, the publications of the International Bible Students Association are interesting samples of political propaganda and seem well calculated to suppress possible instincts of revolt among such members of the Christian community as might object to the role allotted to them under the Jewish superstate. Now, she calls it a Jewish superstate. It's the elite superstate.
Yeah.
And they pump billions and trillions of dollars since the days of Constantine. Constantine, when he founded the Catholic Church in 325 CE, you can look this up. He spent massive millions and millions of dollars bribing the patrician families and the aristocratic families of Rome to accept his version of Christianity, and they took the bribes. They were paid. They were paid massive sums of money. Senators, aristocratic families, powerful families, pagans alike, scholars, Neoplatonists. They shut down the Neoplatonic schools and all those. They went down to Theodosius just 50 years after Constantine went down to Hypatia down in Alexandria, killed her. They scraped every bit. The Christians did this. They scraped every bit of flesh from her bones, and the saying goes, the story goes that not even the dogs found anything left on those bones.
Oh.
The dogs did not even lick the bones. There was nothing left. And they did that with seashells. They got seashells and scraped her bones.
Go ahead.
You know,
question you don't want to forget, but Dina probably knows what it is, but go ahead.
What were you going to say, Danny?
I want to know what the whole significance of the seashell I keep seeing in the churches is.
You read my mind. I was just thinking that as Santos was... and I was also thinking that how can these people not know, not understand that any human that can possibly enact that upon another human, how they can't. I mean, how can you not know that these are these are the Antichrists? I mean, I just can't even believe anyone would do that to another human. But yeah, definitely what Danny was saying. We've often discussed this, Santos, about the symbolism of the shell. It seems to be found everywhere throughout the Vatican, the shell, and a lot of older paintings also have the shell there as well.
Yeah,
it's like
the tree of life that the old Sumerian gods, where you see them putting the pine cone up there towards the winged disc, which is the top of the caduceus, I believe. You also see shells on the top of that tree. I see shells a lot. They use it, I think, maybe in baptism. They use it. They have it painted on a lot of Jesuit paintings in the churches and stuff. Do you know what the symbolism of that means, Santos?
Yeah, the mother of pearl and all of that. It has to do with Venus. It has to do with the, the motherly thing of Venus, the Vesica Pisces and all of that, the fish, and it's just a symbolism. It's a symbolism like the Amanita muscaria and all of those symbols, because as above, so below. The Amanita muscaria, for instance, is the Christ plant. You take that properly, and you have an out-of-body experience, and you get to know what it means to have an out-of-body experience. You realise that you're not your body, and that's in fact what the Eucharist used to be. You see?
Read that.
So it all goes back to the original true philosophy that we used to have. See, Christianity is the true religion in its essence. If you go back to what it really means, I'm showing what it really means. It means the science of regeneration. Same with Islam, same with Kabbalistic Judaism, same with the Hindu and the Buddhist and the Shintos and Taoists. It's all the same science in different languages. I could be talking to you in Italian right now because I speak it, but you wouldn't understand it. It's no reason for you to say, oh, that's a pseudo-language. I don't understand it. That's a pseudo-language. Let's persecute it. It sounds disgusting.
Very good analogy. Excellent.
Yeah,
analogy.
excellent analogy.
Yeah, but the moment a Krishna comes along and says, excuse me, but Krishna is Christ, it's the same word. Our Krishna was crucified on the cross, had 12 disciples, was born on the 25th of December, was born of a virgin, preached the same things. Oh, heretic, no, Krishna, that's another word. That's a pseudo-religion. Kill.
Kill.
Yeah, it's all about enlightenment. I mean, when you look at the other religions, especially if people will go and take a look at the Buddhist monks and these people teaching yoga and stuff like that over on the eastern side, you can see that the true Christianity is in alignment with the higher consciousness that these various things are teaching, as well as Kabbalah and things like that. It's all about enlightenment. And what they've done is the church has taught us to externalize everything and make us feel like that we're this lowly worm, and that we can't become more enlightened, and we can't do things for ourselves, that we have to have a savior for everything. And it's just sad.
Yeah, we have to have someone patting us on the head and saying, there, that's okay, off you go. You know, here you go. This is what your truth is. This is what your reality is. Now off you go and go slave away for us some more and give us some more money. And when you die, you'll go to heaven, and that's when you'll be rewarded. Okay, so don't worry about that now, because you're just disgusting little worms. And I just really wish people would understand who this serves. I mean, really, who does this system work for? Because it's not working for us.
Well, I choose to serve others. That's what I choose to serve. I choose to serve others. And I can tell you this as well, that the whole myth about losing all of your ego is a lie. If you lose all of your ego, then you lose your backbone. It's important to retain your individuality as well and expand your ego, but also protect it at the same time. You can. There's a great channel on YouTube if you guys haven't been to it yet. Kabbalah is not a religion. It's a form of enlightenment.
Philosophy.
If you go to ARI Films, on YouTube and listen to some of the most popular ones that they have on there, and especially the ones that they talk about expanding consciousness and stuff, you can obviously see it's not a religion, but it's a system to understanding how your mind works more and things like this. And they've really got some great stuff on there, and you can see that from the number of views that people really resonate with it. So I highly recommend it. It's called ARI Films.
Once again, it just goes back to taking information from various different sources and then just allowing that to resonate with you, and if it doesn't, well, then you dismiss it, and if it does and it confirms what you're already, researching and looking at, well, then, it just adds and confirms once again. But I totally agree, Danny. People are really misunderstanding this whole ego thing, our ego is our identity, so it's all about balancing our ego. If we allow our ego to overtake who we are, well, then that's not healthy. But if we sit in the corner like a little mouse and we say nothing because we're so scared of standing, and being who we are, well, then that's unbalanced too. It's all about balance. As I love always coming back to the yin-yang symbol because it's so visual of really how energy works and how everything within us needs to always maintain that balance, that fine balance. And it's just an art of having to, allow ourselves to, be who we are, but not to the point where we totally live through our identity. And that's what we do now. When you look around, go down the local shopping mall and have a look at, 90% of the people there are ego because they're empty inside and all they've done is just build up this identity around them. So that's different than, people saying, get rid of your ego, you're not allowed to have any ego, because that's saying you're not allowed to be who you are, you're not allowed to have any identity at all, and, that's not what it's about. We're all individuals, and we have to have some ego.
It's how you use it. If the ego is only meant to, it's for yourself and for selfish purposes, then then you're not in balance. But the ego is definitely important, and just like everything else is, as far as balance, your ego is part of you, and it's how you use your ego that's what's important. If it's used to benefit others, then that's fine, and it's an intent behind the ego. I mean, Kabbalah, one of the things it teaches is how to receive, and how to use that ego and how to keep it in balance. It doesn't mean that you're supposed to get rid of your ego. It just means that you're supposed to keep it in balance.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely. And, well, we're coming down to the last 5 minutes of the show, guys. So if you want to discuss anything you're researching, any of the presentations that you're doing, or your channels, please, now's the time to let everybody know where they can find you guys.
Well, I'll go first real quick. You can find me on YouTube at Starscream 233, and I mix numbers and letters with that, so it's 5T, 4R, and then the word scream, and then the number 233, all together. And you can also find me on Facebook at Danny Wilten, that's spelled Wilten, and then you can also find me on Santos' site, which is schooloftheholyscience.org.
Excellent. And once again, I will be posting all of this in the Facebook group for Sirius Rising. And Santos, you were saying that you've got a really interesting presentation that you're going to upload onto your channel tomorrow?
Yep, 2012 Galactic Alignment. It's going to connect a lot of dots for people who are into this. It's going to explain a lot of things. I've got a lot of good graphs. I use a lot of visuals, and I get into Danny's site, Starscream, a lot, showing what's going on with the Orion Nebula. And that'll be up tomorrow at the latest, I'm sure. I've already edited and looked after half of it. I'm going to do the rest today, and it'll be up. But you can find me on universaltruthschool.com.
Excellent. Well, I will post all of the links in the Sirius Rising Facebook group, and I've also got a channel, guys. If you wanted to check out my videos, it's As I Always Seek, and that's ThyalwaysSeek. All right, well, we're down to our last 60 seconds. So I just want to thank you both once again for, allowing me the honor of having you on my very first show. It's been a fantastic and very enlightening and illuminating show. I'm sure the listeners got plenty of information. And so thank you once again. Have a great night, day, wherever you are. And I'll be back next week, same bat time, same bat channel, on Sirius. What is it? It's Toxic Reality Radio. So thanks everybody, and see you later.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thanks, Santos.
Thank you guys. See ya.
All right, bye-bye.